This is a test of the City of Polacca audio system.
commission meeting for April 14th, 2022. At this time, we will stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. Commissioner Campbell, can you lead us in the pledge, followed by the invocation by Chaplain Mulberry?
Join me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, again, we thank you for your goodness on today. We thank you for your mercy and your kindness. I pray, God, that you would crown our heads with wisdom as we do the business of the city. Pray that you would lead, guide, direct, give instructions, God, in what things we must do to get things accomplished. We pray, God, that your will be done, your kingdom come, your glory be revealed. This we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Here. Commissioner Will Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Mayor Terrell Hill.
Here.
All present and accounted for, sir.
Have a quorum. Thank you very much. I've got one item just before we get into public recognitions and presentation. I've got Superintendent Cernsey on the line, and I want to go ahead and take this item. He's at a conference right now, so I want to take his item out of order. Looks like he's logging on with his audio. And so if we can take item number 7 out of order, and then we'll go back to our public recognitions. Superintendent, are you here with us today?
Yes, sir. I am here with you.
We're here. Item number 7 is adopt resolution 2022 R68, initiating the City of Polacca Youth Ambassador Program. For this item, we'll read the resolution, and then I will let you and Commissioner Campbell move forward at that point.
Resolution number 2022 R68, a resolution of the City of Polacca, Florida, initiating the City of Polacca Youth Ambassadors Program, providing for an effective date, providing for scrivener's errors.
So move. Second.
Commissioner, you wanna-
This is the Polacca Youth Ambassador Program has been in the making for a while. Our very own Vice Mayor has been advocating to get this in the city for quite some time, along with Ms. Sharon Barron of the Florida League of Cities. We've finally put some movage on it, and I'm super excited to be at this point on this evening. This is going to be a collaboration with the Putnam County School District, schools that are represented within the city that we honor or highlight on our Student of the Month will have the opportunity to serve as ambassadors for the city. We want to make sure that we have the perspective of all citizens. And again, these are going to be our citizens, our youth of the future. So we want to make sure that they have a vast knowledge of government. And so this is going to, again, be a partnership with the local schools within the city. And I'm just excited about it. We will have the opportunity to be represented on the state level at various conferences and all of those things. So I think it'll be a great way to get the perspective of our future if we capture them now.
Superintendent Cernsey.
Thank you, Justin. I think it's a great opportunity for our students to learn how government works. And I appreciate the City of Polacca giving our students the opportunity to take part in that. So thank you very much, and look forward to seeing how our students do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing on this item?
In the audience, we have Miss Rebecca Moats. She's been working with us with regards to some of the endeavors that we've already dabbled in. So if you would like to say something at this time at the podium.
Just make sure the light's on for us.
Yes, our wonderful city leadership here. We have Ms. Shank, the wonderful Sunny Krantz. We've worked with the mayor, Mr. Campbell. Commissioner Campbell has been out multiple times, and I don't know if all of you are aware that he is quite the rock star in the schools. If I show up without him, I'm in trouble. They don't want to hear from me. They want to see him. And Ms. Jones was also a part of the city leadership here that has come out and partnered with our programs, initiated presentations about local government, leadership, public speaking. And we're so excited about this opportunity for the future, not just for the Excel program, but for all the students that reside in Polacca. What a great opportunity to get a front row seat into leadership and local government. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And thank you, Dr. Surensey. I know you're at a conference, so we appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Jackie.
Is there anyone else here for public comment at this time?
Vice Mayor Brown.
What's your name, ma'am?
Let me see. Oh, Mary Lawson Brown, and I live at 107 South 9th Street. Y'all don't know where it is, it's across from the Dairy Queen. My feeding is kind of stopped now, people, because I'm retired. No, I just want to say thank you first, Commissioner Campbell, and thank you to the rest of our commissioners, because this is an excellent way for our young people to help pave the way for their future. They can find out all the wonderful things that they could do, those they should do, and the ones we want them to do. So thanks a lot. Keep up the good work. You are my commission. I love you all. I call them my children because I am old enough for everybody's mother.
Is there anyone else here for public comment at this time? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Any further discussion from the commission?
Yes, well, I just think that this is a perfect opportunity because a lot of times when you speak to a lot of our students, they know who the president is, they know who the governor is, they know all these other people, but many times they don't know who their local leadership is. And the local leadership is the one who help shape your daily lives for the most part. We're the guys who are going to impact you on a day-to-day basis. So it's always good to know who your local leadership is. So that's just an awesome thing that we're bringing this to the city.
I just have one more thing to say. I would be remiss if I don't acknowledge Commissioner McCaskill. She had a vast interest in giving me the blessing, because I know this is one thing that her and Vice Mayor was working on, but again, life happened, but she allowed me the opportunity to carry the torch. So I look forward, once she finished her endeavors, coming back on and joining forces with me so we can make this a mighty blow.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Campbell knew that this is something that I wanted to take on and see come to fruition. However, at the time, I've had to put this on hold and working on some other things right now that I think will help when I'm done. I'm actually working on my doctoral degree. So he wanted to keep the torch, the race going, and asked me for my blessing. So I thank you for this. I thank you, Dr. Sorensen, Ms. Moats, and definitely Vice Mayor Brown. Appreciate other staff that got involved.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Katina Mustafa. I'm with Elder Options. And
We're gonna get to yours in a second. Give me
okay, I
one
wasn't
second.
sure. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments as it relates to this item? We'll close public comment at this time. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Give a round of applause for the Youth Leadership Council. And thank you, Mr. Sorensen, for stepping out of your conference for us today. We expect a full report when you return. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Thank you for supporting our students.
Thank you. Moving back to our regular agenda at this time is our public recognitions, approval of minutes first for our March 24th, 2022 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner McCaskill. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our public recognitions and presentations. First up, SBDC Center. Mr. Paul.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Happy Easter, everybody. It's a wonderful weekend. I was asked to present a little bit about entrepreneurship training, small businesses, and business incubators. So just a quick presentation here, talking about the downtown core area. And of course, I've only been here about 8 months or so, but you're not alone, because a lot of small towns, the downtown core area has been decimated. Well, how did it get decimated? And decimated might be too strong of a word, but hey, guess what? Walmart is one of the biggest, and they're even banned in places like Vermont and so forth. So I don't know how they ban big box stores, but they do. So Walmart alone caused a lot of businesses probably to leave downtown. On top of that, you had a mall, and malls are infamous for emptying the downtown corridor. So you're not alone in this endeavor trying to rebuild your downtown core, but you're trying to think of a vision. Well, I have a little bit of a vision I'd like to share with you about this. So the reason I took this job here is because I love mom and pop businesses, and all of you that own mom and pop businesses, I don't like big box stores. So I took this job because it's mostly mom and pop businesses. That is a strength of yours here. I believe that Polacca can bootstrap itself to rebuild your downtown business core and become very successful with it. So I envision Polacca businesses bootstrapping themselves and becoming strong enough to become regional businesses that can go to St. Augustine, Clay County, Green Cove Springs, Jacksonville, Alachua, and so forth, becoming regional business leaders in the area instead of having businesses from those areas come here and kind of take over your businesses here. So how do you do that? Well, I have 3 recommendations. A lot of this is probably rehashing because we did the business planning thing, but basically to build a vibrant and strong small business community that's going to employ more people, keep your sons and daughters here after they graduate from high school, and keep the big box stores and keep the regional businesses from invading here. I have recommendation number 1. And that's to begin offering small business entrepreneurship classes in Putnam County High Schools immediately. Well, why? There's a couple reasons for it. Actually, there's like 6 or 7, but there needs to be a major mindset change towards small businesses. Right now, I'm not exactly sure what's being taught, and I apologize for that, not knowing the details of it, but small businesses are critical to the community, and they provide much needed products or services. Number 2, there needs to be a major change in attitudes. I had an issue when I was over in Tallahassee that the average mindset for people in Tallahassee was that it was a government town, not a small business town, not a business-oriented town. Changing that mindset took a little bit of time, and it's still a long, ongoing process. So the attitude ought to be that you're responsible for your own future. You need to have a, how can I help mentality? How can I change? How can I improve myself type mentality? And I think that needs to be taught in the schools and in homes as well. Number 3, small business training provides a pathway to business ownership. Well, pathways are great, and we celebrate a lot of the pathways, because if you've got a kid in Prairie Y football or playing basketball or a musician or something along those lines, there's a clear pathway from elementary school to middle school to high school, maybe to pro sports. But where is that for business? So by providing a pathway for small business people and youth entrepreneurs, you're providing the means for them to learn and fail several small businesses. So by the time they get through high school, they would have had 2 or 3 businesses, and they're going to be successful and be really good at what it is that they do. And that's the next generation of your small business owners that should be coming out of your high schools. And remember, there's a time lag for this. So, if you implemented an entrepreneurship small business program now, it would take a couple of years to get the graduates through there and get them kind of up to speed. And then finally, after you do this at the high school level, I recommend taking it back to the middle school level and practicing the small business entrepreneurship through them. The second recommendation I have is the Jim Moran Institute. The Jim Moran Institute was founded by Southeast Toyota dealer Jim Moran, and he endowed Florida State University with quite a bit of money, actually. But it's their mission to take existing businesses with at least 3 employees and have been in business for 3 years to take them to the next level. So what they do is they hold classes, and the classes are geared so that the first group of people, the first graduates, help the second class. And then the first and second class helps the third class. So it's an ongoing sort of preparation thing. And they only go after existing businesses because the current and active business owners are the ones that are more highly motivated than a typical unvetted startup. With an unvetted startup, you just don't know what's going to happen. At this point in time, the Jim Moran Institute and Jim Moran also funded the Jim Moran School of Entrepreneurship at FSU, is probably the best entrepreneurial program in the country, if not the world. The key success factor, again, is taking each class as it comes through and having them become mentors for the second and third class and so forth. Palatka and Putnam County is full of local businesses that could expand and take it up to the next step so that they can be the ones expanding into Duval, St. John's, Volusia, Flagler counties, et cetera. Recommendation number 3, I think it's fantastic that there's a study underway for a business incubator for Polacca, but I have a couple little recommendations about that. The main thing is the proper vetting of the students or community members or clients before you allow them into the program. So you need to make sure that they have the motivation and some equity before spending money on them. For example, for the small business development centers, and this is just rough, it varies according to where you are in the country and time of year and that sort of thing, but about 10% of our clients who sign up never show up for their meeting. Wow, that's a big chunk actually, but it gets worse. 30% are what we call one and done. One and done means they show up for the meeting and then they realize there's no free government money to start a business and that they actually have to work really hard to get the business up and going. And so they're kind of get rich quick schemes sort of fail. And so they're one and done. That's all they do for it. About another 30% are folks that we like to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So that means we try to instill upon them proper management techniques to help grow their business and do things, but they just never do anything about it. It's the last 30% that actually listen to the advice and implement things. And it's this group of folks that I think would be really important for your incubator. They're the ones that are going to get the loans. They're the ones that are going to expand their businesses. They're the ones that are going to be hiring new employees and growing their businesses into a leadership position. So my favorite saying is entrepreneurship rewards those who take action. I'll give you a couple of quick examples and then wrap this up. There's a guy by the name of Tim Rowe. He was an MIT graduate, and straight across the street from MIT's front gate was a warehouse district up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. If you've been to Florida State University, Florida FSU was on the top of the hill.
Say that again, please.
But right on the bottom was Gain Street. Gain Street was Gain Street was a warehouse district. Right now it's called Student Town or something like that because it's all, it's been totally redone. Anyhow, Tim Rowe, I brought him into Tallahassee Community College. We had a beautiful space at the Center for Innovation, straight across the street from the Capitol, across from the Florida Supreme Court, FSU Law School, right on Cleveland Plaza. Beautiful. We had all the room. I was trying to get him to open up one of his entrepreneurship centers there. Brought him in. He spoke. We showed him around, and the leadership didn't follow up with him. About 2 weeks later, he goes to Miami, and they snagged him like that. So why is this so important? Tim Rowe now has about 15 Cambridge Innovation Centers around the world, not just around the country. Miami's got one, obviously. That's the one in Florida. But just leave you with this little thought on Tim Rowe. His one Cambridge Innovation Center across the street from MIT has how much money in venture capital right now? $8 billion. Just one of his locations. Entrepreneurship rewards those who take action. Daryl Friedman, fantastic guy from Memphis, Tennessee, twice the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce there, with a very smart guy. 2 years to get an IT degree instead of 4 years at a college. And when he got done, he still had a little money in his pocket. And this is a true story now. He's a great speaker. You ought to have him here. He took everything out of his closet, shoved the desk in there, put a computer in there, stuck a phone in there, started dialing the phone. Satisfied customer by satisfied customer, he grew it into a $30 million enterprise. 2 years ago, he sold it for $20 million and went out and bought a turboprop, and he flies wherever he wants to at this point. Right? Entrepreneurship rewards those who take action. Look at Firehouse Subs up in Jacksonville. A couple guys got together, sub shop, had a good theme to it. How much did Firehouse Subs sell for? $600 to $800 million. And it was just founded like, what, 20 years ago, right? What about Charlie Douglas? Charlie Douglas, our very well-known attorney here in town, now has 4 locations. Benji Bates just opened up a second location in St. Augustine. And Tom Hoverson of Marco started off, is at the industrial park, as you're all aware of, with a promise of about 80 employees. He's currently up to 160, 180 employees. So entrepreneurship rewards those who take action. Recommendation number 1, small business curriculum into the high schools. Number 2, join me in the Chamber of Commerce in a conversation with the Moran Institute's Small Business Executive Program. I've already met with the JMI leadership, and we've already agreed in principle to bring their class to here in the fall. It's scheduled at the moment to be 1 day and bring in a bunch of speakers with no charge to the existing businesses that we'll try to schedule to get into it. We are looking for sponsors in case somebody wants to buy a little breakfast and lunch for the group. And then the third recommendation, of course, was make sure your clients in the incubator are vetted. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you giving me this time this evening to talk about this. I see a beautiful vision for Polacca and Putnam County of small businesses. It can happen. You just need to kind of do the background things to get it up and running. But you can have businesses here that grow, that hire your local people. You can grow your own, quite literally, for your sons and daughters can be trained and start opening up businesses here. And that way, these businesses can go to St. Augustine and Jacksonville and Alachua County instead of having those come over here. So I really appreciate this opportunity to address this evening.
Thank you very much for that
Thank you.
information, Mr. Paul. Let's give him a round of applause. Moving the agenda to Proclamation for Water Conservation Month, April 2022. Ms. Krantz, you have a representative for Water Conservation Month?
We do, sir. Mr. Conkey.
Sir, you come up for us. Go Navy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature. And whereas the state of Florida, the St. Johns River Water Management District, and the city of Polacca are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation. And whereas the state of Florida designated April, typically a dry month, when water demands are the most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas the city of Polacca has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events, whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water. And whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can help by saving water and thus promote a healthy economy and community. And now therefore, I, Terrell L. Hill, Mayor of the City of Polacca, together with the members of the Polacca City Commission, do hereby endorse and proclaim April 2022 as Water Conservation Month in the City of Polacca, and encourage all our citizens and businesses to help protect our precious resources by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the City of Polacca this 14th day of April in the year of our Lord, 2022.
So moved.
I second. There's a motion on the floor in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Let's go to Water Conservation Month. You have the floor.
Mayor and fellow commissioners, I want to thank you for your support of Water Proclamation. I want to thank Ms. Krantz for her support and help in getting this to you. Water conservation obviously is very important. It is the 24th year that the state has celebrated April as Water Conservation Month. But in reality, water conservation is not a month or a day. It's an everyday methodology that we should bring home to be able to conserve our precious resource. To support and show the leadership of our board chaired by Mr. Rod Bradley, last year they made the bold decisions to waive the fee to plug unused or abandoned artesian wells. The results have been tremendous. In just the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we have plugged 62 wells. Most importantly, that has exceeded the full fiscal year of the previous 50 years of our history and conserves 10.4 million gallons of water a day by plugging those unused wells. If you want to bring that methodology to home, as the mayor may have learned today, we have a program called Florida Water Star. FloridaWaterStar.com is the link. You can visit that and bring that conservation mentality and methodology to your home to save money and save some water at the same time. So I want to thank you for your support and your leadership in the field of water conservation here in the wonderful city of Polacca. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so you just kind of alluded to it, but the Water Star program is going to be a presentation that's coming in the near future here. And it talks about opportunities for us to be able to conserve water within our growth and construction. And so Commissioner Jeff Rawls from the County Commission was actually the person who put us in touch with the program. And so we're excited about having that presentation come forward to the commission. Commissioner Rawls is in the corner. And so again, thank you both for your work on conservation. We're looking forward to the future presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. And hopefully you'll get Ms. Deidre Irwin. She is the subject matter expert, passionate, great Irish accent. It'll be a great presentation. You'll be wowed if you get her to come give it.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Thank you. Next up, it's proclamation. Bishop Gilbert L. Evans, Jr., 27 Pastoral Anniversary Days, April 22nd through 24th, 2022. That's Dr. Evans for the record. So Dr. Evans, I know Ms. Benjamin is in the back of the room. So can I get my House of God folks to come forward at this time? Bishop, will you come over as we present the proclamation? First Lady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A proclamation. Whereas Dr. Gilbert E. Evans Jr., native son of Crescent City, loving and devoted son, husband to Deetra, and father to Derek and Deasia, is a minister, administrator, attorney, community activist, team player, dreamer, and doer. He received his AA degree from St. John's River Community College, BA and 2 MS degrees from Florida State University, and PhD and JD degrees from the University of Florida. Whereas an honored graduate, his PhD dissertation was nominated as the dissertation of the year. And whereas currently Dr. Evans is the Vice President and Assistant General Counsel at St. John's River State College and operates a small law practice. He and his wife own and operate D&G Child Care and Learning Center in Polacca. He is a member of the American, Florida, and Putnam County Bar Associations, Florida Association of Community Colleges, Rotary International, and Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., and serves on the board of directors for several local agencies. And whereas Reverend Gilbert Evans is a lifelong member of the House of God Church and was ordained in the House of God ministry in 1998. He has served since April 1994 as pastor of the House of God Church of Polacca, Florida, which has a multiplicity of ministries from Feed the Hungry to Children's Church and DVD CD production of Sunday morning worship services. The church is a thriving ministry, having grown from 7 members to several hundred members who call it their spiritual home. And whereas Reverend Evans was named trial bishop in 2015, appointed chief helper to the chief overseer and presiding bishop in 2016, and consecrated bishop at the 2021 National Convention of the House of God Church in Nashville, Tennessee. He serves as prelate over the House of God churches in Jamaica, West Florida, and California, and is general counsel advisor for the National House of God. The congregation of the House of God Church of Polacca is celebrating Reverend Evans' 27th anniversary as its pastoral leader servant. He has lived his life as a follower of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and dedicates himself in the service to God, the grand old House of God Church, and community. Now, therefore, I, Terrell Hill, mayor of the city of Polacca, together with the members of the Polacca City Commission, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 22nd through Sunday, April 24th as Bishop Gilbert Lee Evans Jr. 27th Pastoral Anniversary Days in the city of Polacca. And we urge all citizens to celebrate and congratulate Bishop Evans upon this occasion of his Episcopal elevation to bishop and his 27th pastoral celebration of progressive, dynamic, and faithful service to the House of God Church of Polacca family.
So
So,
moved.
second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Let's give a round of applause. So Bishop, I know it has to be tough being the prelate in Jamaica and California. I know that you've got to hate going there on a regular basis. But again, congratulations. And will you give us some words?
Well, good evening to everyone. I would like to first say thank you to the mayor and the city commission for this recognition. I love Putnam County. I was born and raised here in Putnam County. I was educated in Putnam County. And I have been here in the city of Polacca pastoring for 27 years. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no greater or better place than Putnam. I'm grateful for my wife, Deetra, who stands by my side, and also our church administrator, Miss Benjamin. This has been a great 27 years. And as the poet said, I still have miles to go before I sleep. Yes, miles to go before I sleep. Thank you all. God bless you, and thanks again.
Any comments from the commission?
Yes, can we get a picture?
Sure. Can we go to Jamaica?
Yeah.
Young man from Little Crescent City. So it's always a blessing to see somebody who stayed home and came back home. Go Gators, by the way.
Never mind. Chose the, thank you.
Next time,
I'm trying to be good.
he went to the other school too.
If you want to go there, just say that.
Proclamation, Crime Victim Rights Week, April 24th through 30th, 2022. Ms. Edwards, Chief, you want to join her?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has legal standing and protections that go along with it. Whereas Crime Victims' Rights Acts passed here in Florida and at the federal level guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate in criminal justice processes. Whereas victim service providers, advocates, law enforcement officers, attorneys, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice by enforcing these rights. Whereas victim service providers and allied professionals can reach more victims through innovative trauma-informed programs such as telehealth services and multidisciplinary teams. Whereas victim service providers and allied professionals can increase access to victim services and compensation in areas that have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by inequality by implementing culturally responsive services. Whereas equity and inclusion are fundamental prerequisites to survivor care and survivor-led services that provide victims with opportunities to share their experiences are essential blueprints for support. Whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to commit to ensuring that accessible, appropriate, and trauma-informed services are offered to all victims of crime. Whereas the city of Polacca is hereby dedicated to helping crime survivors find their justice by enforcing victims' rights, expanding access to services, and ensuring equity and inclusion for all. Now, therefore, I, Terrell L. Hill, Mayor of the City of Polacca, together with the members of the Polacca City Commission, do hereby proclaim the week of April 24th through the 30th, 2022 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in the City of Polacca, reaffirming this city's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime throughout the year, and expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Motion, so move.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Edwards, floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much to the commission, and as well, Ms. Honey, thank you very much. I want to very importantly say that I cannot accept this on my own. I wish some other advocates were here. We work in separate agencies, but we couldn't do this ministry alone. I use the health department for their therapists. I use the Stuart Marchman Agency for therapy. I use the hospital for certain things that we lean on. There's several, and I don't want to not mention anybody, but it's really important that we all know that victims need a whole team. It's just not me. It's not, and of course, we have my chief and my captain back there, our officers and I, we work as a team to help find justice for these victims. I want to invite everyone to help us celebrate Victims' Rights Week. During that week, you'll find it online if we are going to have the event, but 24th through the 30th is the week that the National Crime Victims' Rights Week is celebrated. And the theme, this national theme this year is rights, access, equity for all victims. The theme underscores the importance of helping crime survivors find their justice by enforcing victims' rights, expanding access to services, and ensuring equity and inclusion for all. Again, I say thank you very much. And if we do have this event, it will be at the riverfront on Thursday, April 28th, 2 weeks from now, between 5 and 7. And we just want to honor a few of our survivors and recognize all of the different persons that make this thing happen, all the different agencies. We'll have resource vendors down there and free food, hot dogs, hamburgers, and sliders. So again, thank you very much to the commission and all of you citizens that have helped me over these past 7 years. And I do want to announce that this will be my last time appearing for this event because I'll gladly be retiring this year.
Again?
So if you do know anyone, okay, yeah, I'll take that. But I just want everyone to know that it's been an honor for me to serve this community. It has not just been a job for me. It has been sincerely a ministry. Thank you again.
Let's get a round of applause. And again, Ms. Edwards, thank you for your service. Next up is public comment. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken on topics of discussion. I want to take the liberty first to welcome Palacca's newest business, Ms. Ramonica Flagler, if you could come forward at this time and just tell us a little bit about your business. You got a special grand opening this weekend.
Good afternoon. My name is Monica Flagler, and I just opened a primary care clinic on 702 North 19th Street in the Hope Plaza, where I do primary care, IV infusion, hydration, school physicals, work physicals, education on different diseases. So I just opened and hope to see some of your faces come through there so I can educate you, take care of your medical needs. I'm at 702 North 19th Street in Suite 5.
And so Ms. Flagler is directly across the street from House of God Church. And she is in an area where healthcare is much needed. It's a health desert, for lack of any other term. And she has come to the community and she is thriving and she has patients in there. And so if you're looking for someone young and energetic to give you primary medical care as well as advice, then she's the person for you to go to. And we just want to welcome you to Palatka, and we thank you again for choosing our community for you to open up your practice. Let's give her a round of applause. Next up, I've got Dow, Haley Dow. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, sir. It's Alec Dow.
Alec Dow, okay.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? My name's Alec Dow. I was employed in the Polacca Fire Department back in November of 2019. Was when I was first employed. During my tenure there, I've seen a lot of good things, a lot of great things happen. More recently, that's not really the case. So ever since Chief Taylor's tenure has taken over, a lot of negative things have came out of the department itself. We've lost a ton of experience in the last 2 months, upwards north of 20 years of experience, to be replaced by minimum standard. They basically have lowered the standard to fill seats of people that we've lost, thus creating an unsafe workplace for my colleagues, my brothers and sisters that I call family. And I would hate to read about something happening. Unsafe workplace practices have been presented to the city manager, Don Holmes, and have been sent to HR, only to be ignored and swept under the rug and left with no comment whatsoever. These are legitimate concerns, ones that break not only the city's direct policies, but the department's policies themselves. And like I said, the experience that we've lost has been replaced by people in the immediate circle, in the immediate shift that Christopher Chief Taylor has just left from before his tenure as chief. So he has promoted people in positions that have less experience than other qualified members, and demoted members with 15 years of experience down to the rank of a baseline firefighter. Like I said, in the fire service, the main thing that we want to do is protect life and property. And with unsafe working conditions, is this not only possible for ourselves, but the citizens as a whole. This is not only something that is jeopardizing the lives of first responders that we have, like I said, that these documents have been presented to the city manager himself and the HR, but this is something that's directly affecting the city itself. And each and every day that this goes unanswered and unnoticed and gets swept under the rug, the liability and risk of these unsafe practices is raised daily and daily and daily, and just keeps raising until something's going to eventually implode. Not only has these unsafe practices caused immediate concern and needed immediate addressing, Chief Taylor has also not held up to his end of the bargain with you guys about living within inside of the city limits. And that plays hand in hand with the fact that he is not only not responded to at least a dozen, if not more, fires inside of the city limits, which he is required to respond to. But I mean, it speaks for itself that he doesn't even want to live inside the city limits. It kind of goes to tell you where his mindset's at for the overall safety of this city as a whole. And I just hate to see what's going on there. I had a ton of passion for what we do. And I just felt like ever since I swore an oath to serve and protect this community and serve and protect this city, I've had some time to think about this, and I don't want this to go unanswered. And I think something needs to be done before something that can't be reversed, that can't be, like I said, like a life, it can't be brought back. I just before something implodes to the point that we are at a point that we can't return from. Each and every day that this drags on, it's just going to continue to snowball into eventually it runs into the side of a mountain and the rest of it comes down on top of it. This is something that many of the colleagues at the department would be willing to attest to in terms of an investigation or of any sort. And really, like I said, during my tenure there, I've seen a lot of good things, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of passion, a lot of good guys and gals that work at that place and have came through those walls. But unfortunately, a couple of bad apples can ruin the whole cart, as y'all all know. So that being said, I just hope you guys consider taking some kind of action sooner than later. But the longer this goes on, the more liability, the more risk that's being piled on top of this whole scenario that I've witnessed unravel in front of my face, between the hostile behavior, the unequal treatment, and just the unsafe work practices themselves in terms of day-to-day operations and putting people in apparatuses, and the way that the whole thing's been ran since Taylor's really taken over. He's kind of changed everything. That's really all I got. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Dow. Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Mayor, I try to be restrained in responding to some of these comments, but I feel like it sometimes by not responding to some of these comments, I leave them unchallenged. You know, everyone pretty much in this room knows I spent a lot of time in the courtroom. One of the most difficult things I've found in a courtroom is sitting during closing arguments and hearing the other attorney, when it was an attorney of a certain mindset, saying things that weren't accurate, weren't true, weren't supported by the evidence, and weren't facts. But you have to sit and listen because they have the right to say it. Mr. Dow has the right to say what he wants to say. I categorically disagree with him as far as his charge that safety violations are being swept under the rug. That's categorically untrue, absolutely not true. Mr. Dow was terminated from his position as a firefighter, went through the review process. I sustained the termination. I suspect he's not happy about that, and that's his right. But as I explained to him in a letter that I wrote to him when I sustained the termination, that the decision by Mr. Chief Taylor, when you listen to an argument or a version of events, some parts of it might lend themselves to objective proof and other parts don't. They become just word against word or matters of opinion. And most of the time, when I tried to argue to a jury to help them make the choice between two different versions of events, I'd seize on a particular thing that might be subject to objective proof and ask them to judge the whole statement that had been made by the other side by the truthfulness of that one assertion. So, for instance, with what Mr. Dow just said, he said that one of the examples he gave of Chief Taylor promoting people who didn't deserve it and demoting people who didn't deserve it, he mentioned someone who'd been demoted with 15 years experience and he'd been demoted to the rank of firefighter. There's some truth to that. There was a person who held the rank of lieutenant who was demoted to the rank of firefighter. But what Mr. Dow didn't tell you was the reason for that demotion was that particular lieutenant allowed the certifications that are required qualifications of the rank of lieutenant. He allowed those to expire. His choice. He was given an opportunity to get those certifications, to renew them, to revalidate them. And he basically told Chief Taylor he didn't intend to do that. He didn't want to be part of leadership. So he demoted himself. There wasn't a rank below him other than firefighter, and that's the position that he was directed to. So I simply say that the validity of Mr. Dow's statements, from my perspective, can sort of be judged by that one example he gave, where he only gave part of the example, and where the facts of that example bear out and show merit of the decision that the chief made. I'm very comfortable with the direction that the fire department at the city of Polacca is taking. You know, whenever you have a team, occasionally, as Mr. Dow said, you have bad apples. Sometimes those bad apples want to form their own team inside the larger team. And the problem is they don't necessarily want to play on the same field as the rest of their team. And I think that that's part of the situation that we found ourselves in. And that's part of the situation that Chief Taylor is addressing. I'll mention one other thing that I was going to mention later on in the meeting, but we recently had promotional interviews for the chief. It's actually a position of a fire marshal, which we had opened up to anyone who wanted to appear. We had used outside individuals on our review panel, which included a fire chief from a neighboring jurisdiction, who I think all of us in the industry have great respect for. And one of the things that I took great comfort in was, number one, he was very much on board with the selection that was made of one of our own firefighters to take or one of our own members of our fire company to take the position of fire marshal. But secondly, he made a point at the conclusion of the interview process of saying that he participated in the interviews that led to Chief Taylor being hired. And he complimented the change in culture he had seen at the fire department in the year and a half or two since Chief Taylor was interviewed. And he indicated that it was a huge signal to him that the Polacca Fire Department was on the right path. I also believe the Polacca Fire Department is on the right path. I think it's on a path to improve the service that's being rendered to the citizens of Polacca. And while there will always be people who disagree, I think that the proof will be in the culture that is being created, the atmosphere that's being created, and the effectiveness of the fire department. So I'll leave it at that.
Any questions from the commission?
My only question is, I mean, thanks for the comment, but my only question is if everything is ran through the city attorney and HR, well, how we went through all of that before, so.
We sure have.
Right. So.
Is the investigation closed at this time?
Yes, it is.
Will you be able to share the results of that with the commission?
The review, I wrote a letter to Mr. Dow advising him that his appeal of the decision or his request that I review the decision of Chief Taylor had been concluded, and I found no reason to change the decision that Chief Taylor had made to terminate his services.
So in other words, you did respond.
I did respond, both an email and a certified mail letter, which he didn't claim.
Any other questions from the commission? I'm sorry, Commissioner Board.
That's all I have.
All right.
So do I have a chance to respond at all, or?
It's not a trial today. Well, if you can stick around, we'll get with you in a second after the meeting if you want to stick around.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Katrina Mustafa. We're gonna try this again. Elder options. Thank you, Bishop.
Good afternoon. My name is Katrina Mustafa. I'm with Elder Options, and we're a private nonprofit whose focus is to assist older adults in remaining at home as long as possible. We realize there's a time and place for nursing home care, but we also want seniors to age at home. And we do that by providing services to assist them in doing that. And I'm here before you today I think it was the mayor who mentioned about there being a health desert. And what our focus and what we need assistance with is not funds, but we need help in getting the word out to the seniors and the disabled community in the city of Polacca. We have classes focused on chronic disease management. We have classes that are focused on fall prevention. And we have classes that are focused on mental illness. So helping with depression and other type of conditions. So I want people to know we are out here in the community. I have two of my staff here, Carolyn Jones and Lakeisha. And so we are ready to assist the city, and we want people to know about us. We've been around over 40 years, but we've having a hard time getting into this community. So I'm here today just to inform the commissioners and the city that we are here and we're ready to serve.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for choosing Polacca.
For anyone who would like to take them.
You can actually just pass me to the city attorney. And And also for both of you, we have the Mayor's Health Challenge coming up. If you get with Mr. Cutright in the back of the room, wave your hand, Mr. Cutright. He can give you some additional information. We've got a number of health agencies as well as the hospital participating. Also, the grandmother of senior citizens in Polacca is Miss Mary Lawson Brown. She knows everybody from infancy on. She just did a senior art show as well. So she has a wealth of information, and also Miss Allegra Kitchens, former city commissioner, in the back of the room. Between the two of them, if they can't direct you in the right place, you don't need to go there.
All right, thank you. I would like
Awesome.
to add, we're also focused on elder abuse prevention and education. And so I was excited to hear about Victims Week. Not planning on participating in that, but we need to get more information about that and how we can prevent seniors from being exploited.
So we'd be,
Financially, physically, and every way.
so we would be excited to have you with the booth as well as Helping Hands, Heart to Heart, over at the Health Challenge, because we're going to disseminate a bunch of information throughout the community, and it's going to be a good time for us all next month. So definitely we look forward to you.
Okay, so who do I
Thank you.
reach out about that?
Mr. Cutright in the back, he will get you in touch with Mr. Fells, who's organizing.
All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rawls, I'm going to bring you up on an item. Just to give a quick update, it's always scary to bring you up for anything quick. But we just had an opportunity to have a joint commission meeting, and I didn't want to waste the opportunity of having you here just to kind of give us an update of how the joint commission meeting went.
I don't think it could have gone any better, to be honest with you. It's the first meeting that we've been able to have in a little over 3.5 years or so. It's been a long time coming, with the growth and the progress that Putnam County and the city of Palatka are starting to experience. You really have to be an ostrich with your head stuck in the sand to not realize it. We're on the precipice of a lot of growth. The epicenter of Putnam County is Palatka. And as Polacca goes, I believe the rest of the county is going to go. So we really need to work together. There was a lot of, I just thought there was a really good spirit of cooperation. I think there's a lot of projects that we can work together on, reduce the duplication of services, save the taxpayers some money, but be able to provide a lot more services and a lot better services together. So I was really pleased. I haven't heard anyone at all not have something really competent to say about the way the whole process worked. Commissioner Pickens did at our last meeting on Tuesday reference that we'll be having another meeting in the next quarter. So it looks like we'll be going to quarterly meetings. I would highly encourage that. I think it's beneficial to everybody. And if need be, we can meet more often, obviously. But it's a pleasure for me to serve with everybody in the commission on the city CRA. That's another group that I believe is working well together, and we're working for the benefit of all the public. So thanks for your time the other day. I thought y'all just did a smashing job, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Anyone else here for public comment at this time? I know I have my Bartram, group as well as the daughters here. I will call you up right after the consent agenda, if that's okay. And so is there anyone else here for public comment at this time? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment at this time. We'll move forward with item number 5, which is an emergency item. It's adopt resolution 2022 R70, authorizing the mayor and the interim city clerk to execute and attach Blue Crowd Festival Entertainment Agreement with RQ Music LLC in an amount not to exceed $145,000.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2022 R70, resolution of the city of Black Florida authorizing the mayor and the interim city clerk to execute and attest a contract in the terms of the proposal not to exceed $145,000, providing for scrivener's errors.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor in a second. We'll now open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, will close public hearing. I just want to make a comment on this. Although the commission gave authorization for us to enter into the contract with the promoter during the last meeting, there was also, we wanted to bring this back to make sure that you got a chance to review the contract and see if there were any questions from the commission. I didn't feel comfortable just signing the contract without making sure that we got questions and direction from the commission. Also, did we get a motion for this as an emergency item?
No. I'll make a motion that we accept this as an emergency item.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And so we've got a pending motion on the floor. Time is of the essence. We've got deposits that are due yesterday that we held off because we wanted to make sure that the commission didn't have any questions from a contractual standpoint. Our commitment is still for the resources that we talked of, the 75,000 have been the initial piece, and the 25,000 from TDC coming, as well as contributions from various sponsors, as well as vendors who have already started bringing in resources and signing up as of today for the festival. So we're excited about the Blue Crab Festival. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that we brought this back because we wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to review the contract. Is there any other discussion on this contract?
Yeah, it's just one quick thing, actually, too. Did we structure that in the contract supposedly where the funding that was supposed to be, whatever the city funding was, to itemize it to where the city funding wasn't going to be purchasing alcohol?
It's written in the contract specifically. So,
The other question was that, was it possible that the TDC could contribute more from their funding?
based upon what was in place, the recommendation from the county commission, we can go back and ask for additional funding from TDC and try to get a special call meeting as it relates to that, but it wouldn't show up in this contract.
And I do think Commissioner Pickens did address that. He will go back and ask.
So if you look at the change in the number from the original budget of 160 to 145, that's based upon pulling the alcohol number out.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted
Yes,
to
ma'am.
add clarification. I did some clarification in the Article 5 disbursement, so there wouldn't be any ambiguity. It's on the last sentence. It says all revenue generated minus the alcohol sales in excess of $85,000 shall be paid to the city and deposited into a separate city account as seed money for future Blue Crab events.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, consent agenda items A through F. Are there any items on the consent agenda that you wish to have removed at this time?
I'd like to have B removed for question.
Item B, are there any other items besides item B that you want to have removed at this time?
E and D.
Item B and E, are there any other items? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda excluding B and E.
You said D
He said B as in boy.
as well as
E.
D. I just want clarification on D, D as well as dog.
B, D,
and
and
D.
B,
All right, B, D, and E.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Campbell?
yes, it's fine.
All right, so there's a motion to accept everything but items B, D, and E.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner McCaskill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Before we go there, item C was approved. If I can have it this time, Mr. Billy Bartram. You can come forward, and also the daughters will come forward at this time. The historic marker of the riverfront for William Bartram.
Thank you, Mayor and City Commission. William Bartram Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. I'm Julie Thompson, the secretary of our chapter. We were here to ask permission to place a historical marker on the riverfront near the playground. In order to get permission from the National Society of DAR, we need to have written permission of the landowner to place the marker. So that was one of the things that we had to do as a prerequisite in order to file for the historical marker. The marker will be similar to the ones placed around the city representing William Bartram. It will be a pole, metal in nature, and will contain the following text. In 1774, while coasting past the Seminole settlement on the riverfront of what is now Palatka, William Bartram wrote in his book Travels, and I quote, "There were 8 to 10 inhabitants facing the river. Some of the youth were naked, up to their hips in water, fishing with rods and lines, whilst others, younger, were diverting themselves and shooting frogs with bows and arrows. On my near approach, the little children took to their heels, but the stouter youth stood their ground and smiling called to me. They were civil and appeared happy in their situation." The proposed location, our suggested first choice would be between the playground and the restrooms. The proposed second choice would be the other side of the playground, somewhere near the existing bench on the riverfront. Once everything is in place, it will take 3 to 6 months to get the necessary permission from the National Society, and then the marker will be fabricated. And we have been given approval with a list of vendors to make the marker. We also have our very own William Bartram, Mike Adams here from the Bartram Society of Florida here to speak.
Do your ladies want to say anything? Okay. Okay, good.
It's on you, Billy Bartram.
All right, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, thanks for getting us over here for this project. This is quite an exciting project. And those of you that maybe aren't familiar with William Bartram, he came through this area as she was in 1774. And he really was an important explorer in Putnam County and Palatka. Putnam County is the epicenter of his adventures. But more importantly, in modern times, the Bartram Trail Society of Florida, Mr. Mayor, as you know, we've been working with the school board for over 7 years. And between 700 and 800 second graders, we do an educational program for them on the riverfront every year. And it's just quite an amazing endeavor. We've partnered with the school board, we've partnered with the city of Palatka and also Putnam County. And we think that this program is really successful. So from the Bartram Trail Society of Florida, we really support getting a marker out there through the Daughters of the American Revolution. I think it's really important, and it's really going to help folks understand the significance of the waterfront here at Polacca and Putnam County and the St. Johns River. My second item, Mr. Mayor, and I handed out these flyers, we have the Bartram Frolic coming up a week from this weekend right here on the riverfront. And that's open to the public. It's free. We got a lot of good things going on. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have bands. We're going to have music. One really exciting component that we have is the militia from Fort Mose, another group of reenactors that comes over, and they're really exciting. They fire muskets and cannons, and the kids just really like it. So it's quite an event. Mr. Mayor, I know you've attended several of our events around the evenings with this event, and like I say, it's highly successful. So I'm here on 2 counts. The first count is supporting their marker on the riverfront, and wherever the city can approve and define where the sign location would be fine. And then the second item is the Bartram Frolic coming up a week from this Saturday on the riverfront. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the commissioners.
Thank you for that. Thank you both. And I'll tell you, I was reading some information on Rose Plantation. And it documents some of the explorations of Bartram, as you talk about Rosetown, Rose Plantation, and the history that goes along with that. So we're just excited about the commemoration of the explorations of William Bartram. We are pleased and really just indebted to the daughters as well for the work that you're doing and making sure that this marker is here and it creates an additional attraction within the community as a whole and an educational piece for our children as they're at the playground. And also to the Bartram Committee for the wonderful work that they're doing and making this festival that started just a few years ago become a national festival. It's not going to just be a regional festival, it'll be a national festival. And so every year it gets bigger and better. And so we are just pleased and excited. And we appreciate you so much. And let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have some of these flyers available if anybody would want one for the frolic.
Next up, item 6B, adopt resolution 2022 R63. Sourcewell pricing HMGP 4283-508 lift station project for a total of $307,060.49. Mr. Griffin.
Hi.
Just before you get to it.
Resolution number 2022 R63, a resolution authorizing award of social pricing for HMGP 4337508 historic lift station, providing to Ring Power Caterpillar in the amount of $307,060.49, providing for scrivener's errors.
So move.
Second.
Source from Florida. Second. Commissioner Borum, you pulled this item?
Sir. Oh, yeah, I asked for this one. I just seen where I had it in the email where there was a total cost increase. Just how much was the increase since it was it just submitted today. What's the difference?
It's approximately $22,000, Commissioner. It does still fall within the grant budget, or we're significantly under budget right now. Basically, what happened is last week in reviewing the agenda packet, I noticed there was an error in the quotation for the River Street lift station. They had quoted a diesel model and not a compressed natural gas. So quickly asked them to revise the quote, and that's the difference in it, sir.
Okay, I mean, I just know I seen where it says increase in the price. I didn't see it in reflection in the agenda, so I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? As it relates to this item?
Is that B?
That's B, B as in boy.
Yeah, when I look at the total project budget was $59,406. And it said 75% of that is paid through a grant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so that's estimated about $344,554.50. So that would leave the city money, the funds that's coming from us as a match, 25% would be like $114,000.
Correct.
Is that correct? But I guess that's why I was kind of stuck, because I didn't see there's another number down here. It's all those numbers up there. Then at the end, recommended action says $280,142.
That's probably because we updated the agenda item today, sir, and we forgot to, or we didn't catch all the numbers. So it is for the $307,060.49.
I don't like consenting to stuff that isn't accurate. And you guys bring it up here, and it's not accurate. We're consenting to things, may seem minute, but that number is a lot different than the number we have right here. I don't know if you guys are looking at that.
This is actually built into your current budget. It actually came in under budget. So there's actually a cost savings in the utility fund based on the award that we're doing at this point.
So which one are we approving? 280,142?
$307,060.49.
So you can understand my concerns for the commission?
So the resolution is off. The resolution is closer to the generator across from the previous one.
And that was updated.
Yeah, but it's not in the packet.
No.
So
Correct.
the packet has the old number in there.
Right. So we're telling
It
you
was,
that,
correct, it was emailed out as an update. I understand it was late.
So Commissioners, the only other option was to pull this item. Staff is really seeking to get these generators in before we get into the busy part of hurricane season. We are under a current consent order with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for the River Street lift station failing during Irma. So it's critical that we move forward with this project.
Scribner's error.
And once again, it is budgeted, came in under budget. So this is not additional funds that we're asking to be pulled from reserves. It's built into the budget.
So just an error.
Well, let's make sure we note the Scribner's error, and it gives us an opportunity to make sure we have clarity as we put the numbers together and what's in place. So,
And also,
go ahead, Commissioner.
also, I guess with me being a technology person, I get emails. So moving forward, when we make these type of changes and we get an email, let's make it customary that we'll go ahead and make some formal kind of contact so that we'll be prepared, or make sure that the changes that are made are put in the packet, just so we won't run into this issue again.
And usually when that happens, I usually get a call from Jonathan. I don't know. Not sure if you do it with me, you couldn't do it every other commissioner, but usually I would get a call.
well, let's
I'm just saying, I'm not special, I'm just saying, I don't know what it is, but
I'm just messing with you. Oh, so that's what you do, Mr. Griffin?
Oh.
No, it's just, so anyway, before we belabor the point.
I don't know if I can answer that correctly.
Don't do
Well,
it.
usually I get a call, I mean.
We'll try and do better moving forward. You know, this is an important item. We didn't want to delay this until the next meeting. Again, we noticed the issue last week. We requested the updated pricing from the vendor. It didn't come in until yesterday, and we updated it as soon as we could. I apologize for not making calls to the commissioners.
But I think more than anything else, just the fact that it's a good catch by Commissioner Jones on the numbers on the resolution for what we have. But it's a learning, it's a teachable moment for all of us at this point, and it gives us an opportunity to have additional clarity and additional checks and balances as we move forward. So any other discussion from the commission at this point? We're now open the floor for public hearing. Is anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, will close public hearing. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Next up, 4D, adopt resolution 2022 R65 authorized execution of modification to HMO 005 CDBGR DRI Matthew, adding to the period of performance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2022 R65, resolution authorizing execution of modification number 2 to CDBG DR HM 005 with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity providing prescription reserves.
Second.
Motion on the floor in a second. For public hearing. Seeing no one, will close public hearing. Questions on item D, Commissioner?
Yeah, I actually get this one pulled to clearly identify where we're working, and where the work is being done. It says 14th and 15th Street draining project. Is it North 14th and 15th or South 14th and 15th? I know, but it needs to be clarified in this document for now and future reference as far as the work and where that work is being done. Can we agree on that? Can we get that included? I know you may say that's minute. However, when we're looking at this, or when we are off of this dais and others are looking, it doesn't state it clearly, and this is detailed work. Because as I looked at it at first, I thought we were, when I just was skimming over it, I thought that we were moving over North 14th and North 15th Street, because we talked about the doing that work over there. And I just, for a point of clarity, I would like to know what it means to, as far as we're gonna extend this out, with the deadline being December 14th, 22. We won't be done with that project by then? Is that what you're saying?
Sir, I hope we are done by December 4th, 2022, because that is the grant deadline.
Right. So if not, because of the long-term resiliency plan, we have to get an extension, request into DOE, is it DEO?
Okay, so right now, I don't remember the exact contract end date with DB Civil, but it does not line up with this. It actually is in advance of the December 4th deadline. So we have a little bit of cushion there with the grant deadline and what we have with the contractor. Now, if we get into the summer and we're starting to see additional delays, there will be conversations with DEO about extending this so that we don't get out of contract compliance with DEO and we don't jeopardize that grant reimbursement. Right now, they're progressing nicely. We actually walked the project today, looked at the stormwater structures to get ready to start putting grade stakes in, which means they'll be doing some horizontal work, which includes curbs, sidewalks, and road base. So hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of May, you're going to start seeing some real roads out there. And yes, I apologize. That should, within the now therefore, actually say South 14th and South 15th Street, to be specific. And we can make that change as a Scrivener's error.
This is one point, so we could correct that. Thank you.
I thought I saw where it said Laurel, Laurel and 14th was part of that option D.
It includes a lot more roads than South 14th and 15th. Generally, it's South 14th and 15th from Diana all the way to St. John's Avenue.
Any further discussion? Have a motion on this?
Yes.
Now before public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving on to item E, adopt resolution 2022 R66 to award traffic signal and light maintenance contract, Kent Brothers and Somerville Systems.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution authorizing award of traffic signal maintenance and emergency repair services to the Kent Brothers, providing for scrivener's errors.
Run back to Dave. Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Approved it in a second.
I didn't, but I will. Second.
There wasn't a second. Motion on the floor, there's a motion on the floor and a second by Commissioner Jones.
What you have?
We're now up on the floor for public hearing. Is anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, will close public hearing. Commissioner, what's your question?
I do. Somerville Systems, is that the company that's currently responsible? We have contract for keeping our traffic control devices up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do have a question. So I have a question that we just pulled the lights from downtown, and as I understand, some of them were damaged due to lightning. And I know what the cost was to replace them. Now, these bids, it look like just for the inspections, rather low when you have some for 98,000, 132,000, and they come in at 33,000. So what was the difference in inspections? Have you asked that question? Because I just look out of place.
So we're actually agreeing to standard rates. So we'll pay by hour for call out, signal maintenance and repair that's authorized, and emergency call out services. Now, they do not charge us mileage, even though that's in there, because they're located in Putnam County. And we are getting reduced rates. They gave us a reduced rate offering to get through the end of the fiscal year, and then we can either go back out for bid or renegotiate. So the cost that's in your packet is what St. Augustine procured, but they've offered us lower rates. Now, inspections, sir, we are contracted with the Florida Department of Transportation to maintain and do the inspections on an annual basis for the signals that are on the state system. So that includes everything on Reed Street, on 9th Street, State Road 20. I think we have one on State Road 19 and the county has the rest of them. And they pay us per signal. Now we are gonna have reduced costs moving forward because the signals that we removed, we didn't get revenue from the state. That just came out of your general fund budget. Does that address your questions?
That makes sense. What you said, however, still that much in travel, that's a lot, that's drastic. But it did answer my question. So they're gonna do biannual inspections. So if we only required to do annual inspection through DOT, are we duplicating service or what? I mean, why are we? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you, John. I don't know how it works.
So basically, the easiest way to put this is we do what's required by Department of Transportation. Now for our signals, which we will have, I think, 2 that are left that aren't funded by DOT, we still adopted DOT specifications. So we're still going to have to go out and do the inspections as required by DOT, but we don't have to submit those inspections to DOT for reimbursement with our contract with DOT. We will not do anything over and above what DOT requests unless we have a deficiency in our signals. Does that make sense? If they're not performing.
So DOT requires it once a year inspection.
That's my understanding. And again, sir, I'd have to go and double check.
I would like to have that information. That's good information to have, because we're saying we're contracting for every 2 years versus what's required, which is annual.
You're saying we're contracting for
This said
inspection twice a year or every 2 years?
This says in this contract biannual inspection. So that's every 2 years, right?
Every 6 months.
Biannual? Send my email. I'm thinking by is it right?
Commissioners, if it's your intent to make sure that we're only doing what we're required to do per DOT,
That's what
and the city of St. Augustine's procurement or solicitation, it goes above and beyond that. Just because it's in the contract terms doesn't mean that we have to do that. Does that make sense? It's just what they quoted to the city of St. Augustine. What we are doing is we are piggybacking off of that solicitation to meet our procurement requirement. And also, in addition, we are getting more favorable rates from Somerville. So the hourly rates that they submitted to the city of St. Augustine, our reduced rate sheet is significantly less.
So they give you two options. Well, that's what, I think your question is, are you getting two options? So every 2 years, it's 25,000. Every year, it's 33,000 based upon that bid.
So you won't have to do it for 2 years.
So
Why would you do it? So with that, but it won't be any.
what it's gonna be is $60,000 minimum less or 100,000 less than anybody else. 100,000, not counting the additional discounts that you're getting.
I get that, but that's gonna just only be to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, I think I can bring clarity.
No, don't bring any more.
Mayor, I need to say something about those numbers. Those numbers right there are based upon the total number of signals in the city of St. Augustine. Those
Right.
numbers are not reflective of what
Yours
the
is
city of
based on,
Polacca
yours is
paying.
based, we're based on the rate.
We are going to be paying per signal. So those cumulative numbers right there are not reflective. What you really need to be focused on is the 2022 standard rate sheet. What we pay per hour for a signal tech, what we pay per hour for emergency call out.
Which is going down. Based on what St. Augustine has. Any other questions?
I'm not DOT certified either, so I like to get the understanding. Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Commissioner Boyle,
No, that was, I wasn't saying
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 8. We've already done item 7 on the agenda. Hold on. Item number 8. Discussion and direction, code enforcement staff modifying complaint-driven code enforcement process. Let's cut right here. Let's pass it until he comes back. Moving on to item number 9, discussing the direction of 720 St. John's Avenue reduction. Mr. Kennedy. As you recall, Mr. Kennedy is back. He was here a couple weeks ago. Discussing this item, the contract date for the agreement ends on the 28th.
The 26th or the 28th.
It's the 28th.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. And so, Mr. Kennedy, you have an update for us today?
yes, we are still seeking an extension of time, but I can share with you a few more facts, even since the last meeting. And I do have Mr. McMahon here today, if you have any questions for him directly. But in addition to all the items we discussed at the last meeting, where we've hired a contractor, we've been hired an engineer and an architect, we've done asbestos abatement, we've done some of the interior clean out of the buildings, but the shells still remain and await a permit. We've been able to apply for a permit after our architect, Robert Taylor, and an engineer that he brought in with us, and Ed Mishner is the contractor we hired. So we got a couple of locals and then Mr. Rhodes from the next county over helping us get this project designed and permitted. We just got comments back from the county permitting, and those were sent to the architect today. And he has informed me he's not working on Good Friday, so hopefully he'll have us set up by Monday so that we can move forward with permitting. Clearly, we're not going to be done by April 28th at this juncture, but we believe that if we are able to acquire the permit in short order, we expect no longer than 2 to 3 weeks to finish the demolition of 720. I just want to put in there, just for future, so no one's confused. We also, my client acquired the neighboring property, 714, which was in a similar state of disrepair, but not subject to code enforcement for whatever reasons. But anyway, he acquired it and he will be demolishing that structure as well as part of this process. But he wants to start with
You want me to take it back
720
to it?
since that's the focus of the code enforcement. Get that done, and then we'll move straight into the 714 building as well. So both buildings will be taken down in short order, but we want to get 720 done as quickly as possible. Just April 28th is going to be a little difficult at this point. So we're hoping we can get a little more time. And we're asking, once the permit is issued, we believe we can get done in 2 weeks, barring weather or any unforeseen conditions. So we want to ask for an additional 30 days from the date the permit is issued to complete the demolition of 720. That's what we're asking for, which would be a change to the resolution that you adopted back in October.
Commissioner Moore. Question, the terms of the reduction were initiated. This is based upon the recommendation from your client, correct?
This is something we worked out with Mr. Cutright prior to your October.
Based upon commitment from your client to get to this point. When were the permits requested?
Permits were only applied for at the end of March, but we spent the first month and a half in acquisition, trying to get the neighboring property acquired. And there's, that may sound somewhat selfish or, self-serving, but that property is one of the issues with why, when my client tried to get his permit back in 17 and 18, it kept getting turned back because there's a shared wall that overlapped, and so they couldn't come to an understanding on that. So acquiring the property was key to resolving that issue in order to move forward with demolition.
And after that month and a half, what did you do for the next 3.5 months?
Well, we did work on trying to find a contractor. We did, client also, I became the project manager a couple months later when my client came down with COVID in the early part of the year. It sidelined him for a little more than 2 months. He's back, but and you can see he's moving around. He's still not moving around like he did 6 months ago. So in some respects, he's had to rely on others to help him move this forward, including myself. And, we pressed that as much as we could, as often as we could. A lot of it's been involved in discussions with engineers, architects, neighboring property owners. So there's been a lot of moving parts to try to get this thing moving forward. But we are proactively doing it. It's just taking a little longer than we expect. And in the end, you'll have it cleaned up. This entire block there is going to get cleaned up on that side of the road. So.
Are you asking for a 30-day extension from tonight or issuance of the permit?
What we're asking for is 30 days from issuance of the permit.
We don't know when that's going to be.
It'll be as soon as next week. But again, I spoke to Mr. Taylor on the phone before this meeting, and he hasn't had time to dig into it, but we will hopefully, when he comes back to it on Monday, be able to answer it. Because the questions that they've raised are, to my mind, answerable. It's dealing with how we are going to cordon off the road and repair walls that are left behind. So we have answers for both those. We thought they were already in the plan, so we need to clarify.
Any other comments from the commission at this point? Questions?
I'm interested now about the code violations at 714 as well. And why haven't they been brought up? And maybe it might be something that we also look at and address, but I want to know recommendation of staff.
So are you planning to demo both of the properties? Your client planning to demo both of the properties?
Yes, he only acquired the 714 and I think we closed in December. But he will make that part of his demolition. It's not savable.
So when you requested the permit,
We have a separate permit for each, but we have both those permits are in.
so you already applied for both?
Yes.
Are we talking about demo permits?
Yeah.
Is that what we're speaking of?
Yes.
So I guess if you don't mind, staff asking a question. Are the demo permits for these two buildings, would the demolition of these two buildings affect other structures?
They possibly could.
Well, earlier, I know it's been a long time, but I know that you referenced the fact that one of these structures has a common wall with the other. As I recall, now your client now owns both.
Yes.
And so my question basically is there a common wall between these two, either of these two structures and any other structure on the block?
Well, I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. There are several shared isn't quite the right word, but these properties all butt up against each other one way or another. The problems with this one is some of the structure that my client is demolishing actually goes on to a neighboring property. So it's not a shared wall per se, but the issues that are getting cleaned up butt up against a wall that's owned by another party. As well as, but there is then the church is behind us. It's a combination of both. And then with 714, which is, not necessarily part of this code enforcement thing, but that one is probably more of a common shared wall. One of the solutions we have in the architectural solution is you can't really make heads or tails of it until you take some of the materials off to see how you resolve the shared wall issue. We have a plan, but that plan could change depending on what's uncovered during demolition. So,
But you plan to demolish both of the buildings that have these shared wall?
yes. But we're going to obviously leave the wall standing on it. It's not really a shared wall. The 714 and 712 and a half, it's called, the walls appear to butt up against each other. Or if they're separated by an inch or two. That's probably the closest thing to a shared wall we have. Everything else is the wall belongs to the church that's standing. What happened was the roof was just tied into the church's wall. And again, I don't want to get into it. It's not really.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what's so complicated about getting a demolition permit if you're demolishing both of the buildings that have the shared wall. That, maybe there's.
Well, there's other shared walls. There's other walls involved.
Well, that's what I asked a few minutes ago.
Yes, I was trying to explain. There's a shared wall. There's the walls really belong to the church and belong to Mr. Alexander over there. But so parts of this dilapidated structure actually carry over onto those properties. Parts of the church is on my client's property. So it's in that respect, it's a
So the big, so if my memory serves me correct, the big issue was making sure that demolition of the subject building, I'll just say it that way, didn't create any additional code violations for any other buildings or do anything as it related to making those other buildings compromised.
Yeah, compromised or damaged. That's correct. Obviously, we don't want them.
And so it has that issue. And so now we're talking about adding an entirely different building into the equation. So the question is, have we resolved the issue or convoluted it or made the issue more difficult?
I think it's been resolved, and that was along the lines you're thinking. The Bly building, as we're calling it, 712 and a half, the antenna building. That's a different issue, not related to the code enforcement property.
But you're marrying them.
Well, they're on two separate permits. So we don't have to get 720 done and move right into 714. So, but they're on separate permits.
But as you're standing here today, you're asserting that you're going to get 720 done at the same time you get this one done.
No, 720 will be done quicker than 714. 720 is the first thing on the list. We work our way into 714. We anticipate it will be the next couple of weeks after 720 is done, but because once he's there, we want him to stay there and finish everything.
Can I ask another question? So is there engineering or architectural work required in order for you to get the permits to demolish your two structures?
Correct.
Is that engineering or architectural work being done now? Is it under contract?
It's done. It's been submitted. We got comments back. He's taking a look at those comments he'll have Mondays when he's going to get to them because he's off tomorrow, but yes.
Okay. So do you have an anticipated time when you would be able to address the comments and get them addressed to the satisfaction of the county who's issuing the permit?
I believe it will be done next week.
You think you'll have your
Satisfying.
response from your architect or your engineer done next week?
Yes.
So you think you'll have a permit done in 2 weeks? Have a permit in 2 weeks?
Should have a permit within 2 weeks. We hope sooner than that.
Good luck on that one.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of that equation.
No comment.
They are taking a little time, but to their credit, on this particular permit application, we were expecting 4 to 6 weeks, listening to other contractors, and they did turn around their comments within 2 weeks.
Is this also tied into the old Taylor building?
No, he's on the other side of 712.
He's on the other side of the Blau building?
Yep.
But are all those roofs tied in together?
In some way, shape, or form, they're all butting up against each other. Whether they're truly tied in, I couldn't tell you. But they're.
Okay, so on the history against the backdrop here, as a frame of reference, the buildings are a very unique combination of things. We had the survey done recently, the property boundary survey and so forth. And what we discovered is there's a wall on the church building that encroaches about a foot. On the former Angela's, Jeremy's building, there's about a 3-foot gap between on the wall that we are close to each other, but we don't share. The walls we don't share, there's about a 3-foot space between them. Jeremy's is still unfinished block, and my building needs to come down. But the roof rafters went from my building.
They tie in.
And tied in up at the elevation up there. But the walls on the survey are about 3 foot separate. In the back alley, the roof, it was open in the alley between the church and the former Angela's building. And then somebody back in the day put a roof over there. And that's where the start of the problem came, because that roof collected water runoff from Angela's in the church. And that enclosed that alley. So over the last number of years, we've been, back when John Key was alive, sending letters, and Patrick prepared a little chronology for you. We made several efforts to get the demo permit to take down the 720 building. We actually got one, and then the city rescinded it. And so it's really unique in that the walls are independent, except a little bit for the Bly building. I think there's a little joining there, but on the Angela building, it's 3 foot apart, but the rafters tied. So to answer this gentleman's query, the architect and engineer in this plan submittal that already went in end of March, they reviewed all of that. And the provision is they believe for everything they can currently see, it's just disconnect at the connection point, which is usually on the side of the building because the roofs are at different elevations and slopes. So they get removed, and then we patch up those finished walls where that connection is. And that's what the architect is saying, that he can't give us all the details until that stuff is removed. But it's been 5 years-ish that we've had that property trying to get this resolution. And that's why we invested the money to buy the bar building, the 714, was because it just made it simpler and cleaner to clean up that whole mess. Because you may know, you probably do, that it was operated as a bar, sports bar, dance hall, whatever. And that went out of business. And then the owner tried to sell it and had several contracts on it. During the diligence period of each of those contracts, when they had termite people and different things, whatever, structural go in, they realized the building isn't worth saving. So the owner lowered the price. We were able to negotiate a deal to acquire the 714 building, the old bar, because it made sense to clean up the mess, which is what I've been trying to do for a long time. Now, I noticed on the paper here, and I apologize for any confusion, but I think on one, it says request a reduction. Back when the commission assessed me a fine of $10,000 5.5 months ago, at this juncture, I'm not asking, just for clarification, for you to reduce that fine. I'm merely asking for more time to finish the mission, which is to get rid of 720. And we applied for both 720 and 714 simultaneously as 2 separate building permits. And that's gone in. We got comments back in the last hours-ish. And just so you know, it's only the same 2 comments for each permit, and there's only 2 per permit. And one of them involves the more information on the fence to close off the sidewalk. So they're not horrific modifications. They're pretty straightforward. So that's why Patrick believes, and the architect believes, that it'll be a quick turnaround from this junction forward. And then as far as the demolition, that'll move forward pretty well.
And
he's on standby.
And the fine at the time was over 300,000, right?
That was the, I think, the accumulation from the date of the report.
What is the amount of the fine now?
10 grand.
It was reduced. It was a conditional reduction, which we don't normally do.
No, I'm cool with 10. But I'm just asking more time because
How would
I'm
be
trying to solve a bigger problem.
How would it be cool with 10 too?
Yeah, no joke.
I'm not gonna argue about it. Okay, I mean, I put up with the building, no matter what, we would have had to, how do we have a proper survey? We would have had to do the asbestos, I'm sure you're requiring of all your downtown. Okay, so that's gotta happen.
So let me ask a question. I'm talking. I guess I really have 2 questions. One is to the adjacent property owner. It looks like you got Miss Alexander on both sides of this.
I've got what?
You got Mr. Alexander on both sides of this demo.
Yeah, Mr. Alexander was under contract to buy the Angela's building, and we met several times and had great rapport, I think. And then I mentioned the Bly building, and then he decided the Bly building fit his needs, and he moved forward and acquired the Bly building. And I have text I could read here, where my hope in the beginning, and still is that Jeremy and Crystal end up with that whole run. And only in my mind makes sense for what their business plan is and so forth. And we met a couple times, we talked numbers, we did different things. We haven't come to a conclusion. I still hope we can, but the short version is that he is on both sides, 3-foot separation on one side, and we've got maybe a 8 or 10-foot common wall that the architect can't really get into, that may only be a few inches apart, but it may have some sticks of wood to cross.
Mr. Alexander, are there any concerns at this point?
Yeah.
You would have to come forward. Just take your name and address for the record.
Jeremy Alexander, 134 Timber Lane. I guess my main concern is that Bob Taylor should be familiar with that building more than anyone in this room. So for him not to know if it's one shared wall between 712 and a half, as they're calling it, 714, is puzzling to me. Number 2, they asked me if they could have access to 712 and a half to make that determination. And I said, absolutely. And I never heard from Bob Taylor. So I think there's devil's in the details with the semantics we're using here, but I could be wrong. I'm only familiar with one wall. They seem to think there's 2. They are still more than welcome to come check that out at any point in time. So obviously when someone's potentially impacting a structural wall, I have some major concerns. I also have some concerns that I'm in compliance, continue to be in compliance, continue to maintain and improve my building. So how this impacts me long-term, have some major issues with some unexpected costs, obviously, and in my future, and who's gonna cover those is a major concern for my wife and I. We had a budget, we submitted that. I think everybody's seen it at this point. So yes, I have some concerns.
You have concerns with the demo piece and how it would leave
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not familiar with the second wall between 712 and a half, which is, they're referencing the Bly building, and 714, which was the former sports bar. They asked if Bob Taylor could come look to see if that's a shared wall, and I said, absolutely. And haven't heard from Bob Taylor. The fact that Bob Taylor occupied that building for 20 years. He may already know the answer, but he's not here, and I can't speak for Bob Taylor.
Do we have what it would look like when you guys are finished? I mean, what you, with your architectural stuff? Because if you say you got
It's
a
gonna be a clean slab, it's gonna be no walls, no plumbing or anything. But I'll say this, on the Bly building, which really isn't the subject matter for the code enforcement, we're really about 720 on that. But on the Bly building, it does appear, and that's what our architect term, there actually are two walls, but they're very close to each other. And we're talking about leaving the wall, that's the bar wall, if you will, in place and putting flashing over top of that, and rather than try to pull it away from Bly building. But again, it's, you know, you could be in that building next door all you want, but until you get up and start taking it off, it's hard to see. I mean, I've been around it, and it's hard to see where the connections or don't occur. And there actually appears to be a little gap between the two walls. But again, it's something we in the call for in the plans. And one of the things that plans also call for is, as we get to these key locations, the architect and or the engineer will come out, assess before we start yanking on anything, if you will, and make sure the plan to move forward is going to work, and then also come back and assess what needs to be done to repair what's left behind.
Right, like make sure that there's the exterior wall that you remove and leave his building separate, that would be finished. It would be a finished product. That's what you're saying?
Well, one of the things that we've had a little bit of debate with Mr. Alexander about is what that we certainly would repair holes if there's attachments and whatever. And there, you know, it looks like the walls are separate. The main on they're the east-west walls, if you will, are separate. There's a pretty big gap of 6 inches. Mr. Alexander's wall is unpainted concrete block, basically. And so there is a question, once that gets uncovered, that needs to be sealed from the weather. And we have offered to put money towards that, but it's his wall, and we don't want to be the painters and repair. We will repair our issues, but painting it and getting it sealed from the weather, we've offered to contribute money towards. We're still trying to sort that out. But again,
But isn't the
certainly
wall,
repair damages. What it needs to be make it. These switch walls on.
I'm so
Yeah,
confused.
yeah.
I done heard walls a million times, and I'm just so confused.
You should be, because it is confusing.
Yeah, this is on the Angela side right here, right? What you're talking about is on the Angela side.
so
Yes.
Angela's wall is roughly 3 feet from the
Property line, but not from the building.
property line. Well,
Yes.
our wall.
That's accurate.
It's about 3 feet gap between the two buildings.
Except for the back of it where they don't have a wall, so they just put it up the hands.
Well,
Oh, wow, okay.
Brought it up for the roof for the alley.
Yeah, the alleyway is basically 2x4s, butted up against the neighboring walls and a roof strapped to it. It's,
My only,
it's,
my only concern is that when you guys do the demo, it won't look nothing like when they invested in the building. And now they got to deal with the finished piece and what would that look like, and hoping that would not impact the.
well, I'm not sure this is the place to litigate that particular discussion, but we certainly are willing to work with Mr. Alexander. We put a proposal out there, but we are certainly responsible, but you know, both parties bought the buildings with what's there being there.
Yeah, so I'm just used to a contiguous building.
So here's my thought. This issue gets more complex the more we talk. So my thought is, since you're gonna miss your deadline, and let's wait until you finish the project and bring this back.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, then we can all see what it's gonna look like when you finish. And if you're already out of compliance with your date. So if we're inclined to amend the agreement, because everything was contingent, this seemed to be a contingent agreement based upon you hitting certain compliance dates. You haven't hit those dates. And, for whatever reason, you haven't hit those dates. Typically, what we do on code cases is we wait until you bring the property into compliance before we ever have a conversation about reduction.
Okay.
This in itself is odd. I think all concerns as it relates to aesthetics, all concerns as it relates to how certain things work. At the end of the day, I think it will be in your best interest to work as fast as you can and to make sure that it looks as good as it can. Because it sounds like the deal that was made is the deadline's missed.
That much. It's not an argument. It's
So
going
that-
to be missed. Hasn't been missed yet, but we're clearly, it will be unless.
Yeah, unless you can make a 7-day
Unless a
miracle
miracle.
happen, it's
Yeah.
gonna be missed. So that's just one thought. And I don't know what's Mr. Cutright, what's staff's recommendation on this, Commissioner Jones asked?
The staff recommendation is, first of all, code enforcement, we want compliance. That's in a nutshell. We want everything to be compliant and bring the city back to the nice, beautiful place it used to be. My concern is you're asking for extension on a date you don't have time when anything gonna get started. So like I was speaking earlier, this ends on April the 26th. So you have about maybe 13 more days before anything become critical. You said you're gonna get the permit sometime next week. I think let's see where we have a start date on when all this work can get started and then look at what we can do about extending anything. But since your recommendation about coming back after everything's done and getting assessing it that way, I'm okay with that. But I definitely need some definitive answer about when we're gonna start before I can say anything.
My recommendation is a starting point for discussion. It's not the end all. But that was just what it was.
But Mayor, my major concern is, before we can even talk about giving an extension, let's see when the start date is gonna be for the work to be started.
And then that's why at this point, it's, no extension, it's, let's get it done. That's my thought process. And then we can see what happens, because my thing is, if you come back in here and we're 6 months down the road, that's a problem.
So Mayor, was the original motion that resulted in the $10,000 number in lieu of the $300,000 number, was that a contingent motion that indicated that the fine would be reduced to $10,000 if the property owner met a certain milestone, that milestone being the acquisition of permits, demo permits? Was demo permits the operative event?
The demo permit was not in there. It just said if the deadline wouldn't meet, the fine would be reinstated back to the original total.
What was the event though that had to be achieved by the deadline?
Total compliance.
Total compliance?
About eight, it was
Taking the building down.
taking the building down and.
It wasn't just acquiring permits, it was taking the building down.
Total compliance with it.
So, and in the event that compliance wasn't achieved, the fine reverted back to 300?
305.
305. 305, 750,000.
What?
305,750.
So ultimately, I think what everybody wants is compliance more than anything else. And for this eyesore and problem that's been around for the longest to go away, and to go away without creating any additional impact on the citizens who are sandwiched on both sides, for lack of any other term. It just happens to now be the same person as opposed to it being Angela's on one side. It's now sailors. So I think my biggest concern is compliance. I can't tell you that the delays are, I am absolutely sympathetic to COVID. I can promise you I'm sorry you had to go through it, and I can promise you it almost took me out and Commissioner Jones and a couple of us up here. We are absolutely sympathetic to that. But I guess there's a bit of a dead period. in between that can't necessarily be accounted for. And that's the piece for me. I don't want to sit here and come back and it be some additional delays in place. If it's going to get done, then I think time is of the essence as to how we do it, and also making sure that we're careful. That's my concern. Are there any other considerations by the commission?
Those are my concerns as well. My concern is consistency.
I think it may be helpful for you and the commission if we brought in a more detailed timeline and chronology of what's happened in the last 5.5 months in terms of initiating the survey, but the survey is busy for 2 weeks. Initiating this, but they're busy for 3 weeks. Not necessarily because I'm incapacitated for a while, Patrick's pinch hitting, but the tradesmen that are necessary and required by the process are backlogged.
I get that. I mean, I get it. I get it.
So there was activity. I guess the message I'd like to leave you with as your comment was there was continuous activity the last 6 months. It may not appear that because sometimes you got to start and pause and wait out.
I mean, I get it, but I got an as-built in 4 weeks. I got an as-built drawn in 4 weeks. And, you know, I know that some tradesmen are backed up when it comes to certain things, and there are other tradesmen that are still working. So I'm sympathetic to how the building trade is working right now. And even when it comes down to what, if we were talking about acquiring materials, well, we're in the realm of demo. And so it's a bit of a different animal. But you've got to, the services of the engineer have to be enlisted. The structural engineer have to be enlisted, but just recently. Still 4 months after the fact, but that's, and so I get it, but at the same time, I'm also cognizant of the fact that there's some things that, you know, could have been done differently. At the end of the day, for me, again, I'll say it for the last time, I'm more concerned with what St. John's Avenue is going to look like and what position the homeowners who've been, the property owners historically who have had to deal with the issue are gonna, what the outcome is going to be for those properties, because we know for the one property, there were complaints of water intruded into the property. We know there were some other issues that were concerned. There were some life safety issues that were concerned, and I appreciate you continually moving forward with this process and even acquiring the adjacent building. But at the end of the day, we've missed this boat. We're going to miss it. We know we're going to miss this boat, and we need to catch the next boat as quickly as we can so that this is taken care of from my standpoint. And if the commission has any other concerns or directives, then I think this is the time for us to really have that conversation and give direction to staff, and also so that you'll know what the what the temperature is at this point. And I think staff just said their concern is compliance, and they want to see this property come into compliance. So other commissioners, I'll go around.
Speaking of boats, I would want to make sure on that next boat, it's not as long as it took us to get the boats that we have.
No boat. You said that because Ms. Brown just left.
For my comment on this piece, basically, you know, if this does occur, I think we need to put a date in place so that it's just not some arbitrary date that's sitting out there. So we probably need to put a date out there that we can come back and revisit.
I just don't think you're gonna know it, because the reality of it is this: permits, which once took 2 weeks, are now taking six weeks in some cases.
Understand, but if we put a date out there, then whatever's happened in between those times, we got another checkpoint versus just sitting and waiting.
If you
That's
take
just
no
a
action,
suggestion.
the fine reverts back to the former amount on the
Okay.
26 with no action.
Right, okay.
Which is my point. We can, let's get it done, let's get into compliance, and then come back here. And then I think, you know, if we're operating in good faith and this thing is done, then it's an easy conversation.
Right.
I think that's the easiest way.
Council, I would like to say that we just need to be consistent. You know, we adopted a policy of how much we were going to reduce the liens. We made an exception here already. We already see that the owner is not going to be in compliance. I empathize with what have taken place. I understand about getting services rendered in a timely fashion. We all suffer with that. But what we're gonna do is gonna go through this every time somebody else have the same issue, and we're gonna keep dragging it out, dragging it out. If you're not in compliance and it goes back to the original $305,000, you might be in a pickle where we say, well, it's 50% reduction, and that's what our policy is. How are you gonna feel about that? It's really a statement. It's really a statement because it can't go that way. So in order for us to stay consistent with our own policies that we put out there, you already say you're not gonna make the deadline, and we understand that, but if we keep having concessions to every person that comes in, then we go with our policy and our own procedures are failing us. I just want to say that and put it out there. Do we have a legal opinion on it?
And I think that's why we're going back to saying that, we understand that we made an exception, but we're going back to compliance.
Right. Ma'am, Ms. Thomas.
Commissioner, as stated previously, the agreement was that if they come into compliance within the 6 month period, it would be reduced to $10,000. And since they are going to fail to do that, the original fine should be reinstated. And then they can bring it back before the commission and can look at the policy, and the commission can decide whether they want to work within the guidelines of the policy or make some other decision.
How Mr. Rawls get up here?
You see the question I asked?
I mean, he's not part of this. is he?
No, he's got public comment.
I mean, the Moran Institute, not too long ago, several years back, 100 block, you had a similar issue in a way where you had an agreement with the developer and they didn't come into compliance. They didn't meet the terms of the sale of the 100 block. And there was a concession made. And I don't know if there was money that was put up in the form of a bond, like a cash bond. And I'm just wondering if that might be an option where the city could receive the $10,000 and put that at risk and give him a specified period of time, and that money comes off the table. But it's been done before, and I think you would be consistent in your past practices at that point. But I just, from my 2 cents as a citizen, sitting back there, I'm sitting there thinking, if you reinstate that $300,000 fine and I own that property, you're stuck with it. I'm going to walk away from it and you're going to look at it forever. I personally wouldn't want to have that happen. I think Mayor Hill's right. The St. John's Avenue deserves this. Get a carrot, put it on a stick, put it in front of him. And if it means leveraging his money to hold him accountable, I would think that would be a plausible option. It's been done in the past.
I appreciate your comment on that. However, you know what happened? That happened prior to us making our policy to only reduce it to 50%. So that 100 block, that decision, that when that was made, I don't recall what you're even talking about, but that was done prior to us going to code enforcement and actually implementing the policy that we have now, which we had deterred a little bit.
I understand. I sit in your seat at the county.
Yeah.
And,
So
and we do the same thing. As a commissioner, what I want to see is, like Mr. Cutright said, we just want to see compliance. We want to see our county and our city get cleaned up, get rid of the blight, and move forward. But I'm just saying, in the spirit of cooperation, if there's a way to do that, maybe think outside the box, come up with a way that you could leverage his money, hold it accountable, or make him put up some sort of a payment bond. And
well, maybe if we, you know what, since you're going to be a spokesperson, so maybe if he comes up with maybe $100,000 as far as the fine, the lien, if we reduce it to that, you get what I'm saying? I hear what you're saying, But it's gonna continue to happen, Jeff, and we'll have a problem that we can't control if we don't.
I don't want to, the fine should be punitive, but
No.
they should be in line with, I'm just a simple, it was just a simple suggestion. I'll drop the mic.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comment.
All right,
I lean on legal and the subject matter expert in the enforcement side of this matter, and I side with them, and that's my opinion.
counsel.
Sir, as I previously stated, the property owner has the opportunity to come back in front of the commission and ask for a reduction in the lien. And the commission has the authority to act within the guidelines of the, within the parameters of the guidelines, or they can make another decision that would be acceptable to them.
If you did that, if I might speak, it gives you the opportunity to take into account factors that you aren't aware of right now, i.e. the cost he incurs in taking these buildings down. Right now, you have no idea what that's going to be. I doubt he does. So if you go ahead and just let the process play out, let the fine revert back to what it would revert to under your original motion, let him bring it into compliance, and then let him come back and provide you with the information at that point that would include the cost he incurred in demolishing. You'll then know what it looks like too. You'll know what the end result is. And then you can make a determination, in my opinion, an informed determination about the equities of the situation. So I agree with counsel that would be the most appropriate way to move forward.
You need to hear from Mr. Cutright still? You need to hear from Mr. Cutright?
Yeah, he already said.
So
We agree with what he's saying because that's in line with what.
Cartwright Council, City Manager / Legal.
So at this point, after, I'll reiterate, I'll let you come back up and give me you've sat over in one of these seats before, a time or two. A few of these seats. You've sat in a few of these seats. Again, I think the motivation for the commission is to see St. John's Avenue look better. And I think if that happens, then we'll take it in consideration. And I think that's gonna be the best option, because there's too many unknown variables at this point, from the timeline to everything else. And I think it's gonna be beneficial for the community as a whole for this property to be cleaned up, both of them, because even the bar is going down quickly. It has gone down quickly. I won't say it's going down quickly. And the other property is an eyesore at this point. And I think it's gonna be beneficial for all of us to see those properties cleaned up. For me, my main concern again is compliance. I think this commission's main concern is to see compliance more than anything else. I think consistency is always a consideration as it moves forward, but the compliance for me is what's paramount.
One thing I'll have you, Ross, we'll just do updates to Mr. Cartwright and talk to you guys on.
And so at
Couple
this,
months later, whatever the gaps are.
and so at this point, if we're not gonna take any action and we're gonna wait for a request for this to come back on the commission, we can just I'll entertain a motion to take no action at this point.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, noted for the record that Commissioner Jones was not present for the vote.
However you want to do it. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you back soon.
Mayor, you have to go back to item 8.
I got you. We're gonna go back. Mr. Cutright. Complaint-driven, modifying the complaint-driven process. Let me take this. Where are you gonna take it? Just don't take too much of it.
I'm not coming on that one. Me and the city manager has been conversating about this for a while. And when we first took over code enforcement, we was learning the game and trying to see what was going on and putting stuff in place. We have came to a place now where I think we're comfortable where we can try to start being a little bit more initiative, proactive driven. Just the other day, me and Mr. Green, the officer, we rode around the city and just quick looks. We seen about 35 to 40 violations that we can hit immediately. If we had a little bit more proactive that we could push the button on. So I think but I think with putting some policies in place to make sure we govern ourselves with the city, I think we could actually move the city into a forward.
Keep going.
Okay.
You continue.
Yeah. Moving forward with fixing some of the major blight issues and safety concerns. My main concern right now, even though we're trying to do proactive, I want to hit safety concern buildings, abandoned buildings, structural issues and stuff that we can become a major issue if we have damages or have accidents inside those buildings. So that is what I'm coming here to try to get permission to try to hit those more than anything. I'm not trying to hit the low hanging fruit as much as I am trying to get the safety problems that we have going on.
But you want to have the discretion to be able to do both.
Correct.
So you heard staff's recommendation as it relates to modification to the complaint-driven process. Is there any further conversation from the commission?
The complaint driven, it's gonna be more proactive. That's what I'm hearing.
He wants to modify the complaint-driven process and go back to the proactive process and basically revert back to the old language in essence, right?
Just to add on to that, Commissioner Bourne, when we first took over, we had a lot of people coming in complaining on the citizens. But since then, we have had a stalemate on that. A lot of people saying that I'm not going to police on my friends. I'm not going to snitch.
Right.
So and so on. So we have properties that we see, and I'm pretty sure we have had conversations about this that we want to bring to attention. But right now, we're complaint driven, so we really cannot initiate anything on those properties until we get somebody to come in and complain about it.
Just put my name on it.
I support Mr. Cartwright in code enforcement and the method that he's trying to reestablish, because it is, and we've heard citizens complain about, if you see something, say something. But if we're not seeing something, saying something, or doing something, how can we tell them or ask them to do it? So his staff have done a good job. We have seen some improvements, and I applaud you for wanting to take that on and actually take the initiative of actually tackling the blight and slum. So I fully support it.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And second.
Motion on the floor to allow staff to initiate code cases. And we'll bring forth the final language. We'll bring that back at a later date. Motion on the floor, second by Commissioner Board. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Questions called, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Cartwright. Next up is our financial report and budget update fiscal year 2021-2022 as of March 2022. Ms. Shank.
I am happy to report that we are on track in general fund as far as revenues that are collected. We are keeping an eye on fuel expenses. That's something that we receive weekly, and we will keep you apprised of anything that we're concerned about, but at this time, we're not. For airport, we are on track as well. We are closing out some grants in that fund. Utility fund, we're also doing very well on collections. Sorry, golf course, doing very well as well. We are actually trending to receive additional funds back this year. Sanitation, as you know, we this quarter did buy a fire truck, or sorry, not a fire truck, a garbage truck. because it caught on fire. And we were actually able to recover some of those funds through our insurance reimbursement. TIF, one of the major changes, we did move some money from reserves for that building improvement grant program.
Scroll down, please.
I did notice tonight that I did leave off the ARPA fund, which is a new fund that we've set up. I will make sure that next quarter I include that on here, but I will also send you out an email and update on that fund as well. We did place the order for the SCBA equipment, and I don't have an update on the order status, but I'm sure Chief will get that to you if you needed it. And do you have any questions on any of the funds?
I do. Can we, I mean, next quarter, is there any way we can get that spending for the ARPA funding or on the ARPA funding a little sooner than that?
Yeah, I'm gonna email it out to you.
Okay. And I was looking at the line items on the sanitation department, and I'm looking at year to date. I think year to date is 1 million. Their budget is $1,974,126. And year to date, they're already at what is
1.4.
month four. And they're 1,074,979. So projected for next, are we talking about projections for next budget, fiscal budget year?
To the end of this year.
No.
No.
Are you talking about the budget column? Budget column is what was adopted this year.
Yes.
Year-to-date column is what has been spent
Right,
year-to-date.
right. So what I want to do is point this out where they are right now. So when we are making the budget for next budget year, we're gonna have to increase that budget. We know that, right?
No,
You don't know that-
it's only about a little over half.
You don't know if the spending is gonna soften by the end of the year with expenditures.
You're 7 months into the budget. year.
Yeah, remember I said, oh, I forgot, I'm thinking.
30 October.
I'm thinking 12 months.
Just a
I said
little
month, I
half.
said month 4. You're right.
We in
Disregard that.
We're about 60%.
Right.
I made one mistake tonight. There it is. Up for y'all, all right?
Hey,
It was
paying
more than
attention.
one.
Who actually? All right.
Amber got you at 2. I got it at more.
No,
Well,
I'm just playing, I'm just-
Well, when you're up here just sleeping, you catch me every now and then.
So we're running close. I mean, we're running close to projection is where we are.
We are, we're trending, but I'm very happy to report that I'm seeing a great increase as far as airport and golf course, and I'm very happy to report on that, given the fact that typically general fund gives a loan to those two funds at the end of every year.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Could I also ask, we have went into reserves to
Yeah.
make a few, that's what you were gonna ask?
You talked about TIF reserves.
Yeah. Make a few purchases, what have you, how you feel about that? Where are we with that? How do you feel personally? Your professional opinion, hey, need to know.
I don't make the decision to pull from reserves, you do.
That's not the question.
Okay. Listen,
How you feel about the status where we are and the trend that we're doing? I mean, I need to know that.
We're above the required 16 to 17%. So I'm still comfortable with our reserve balance.
What is the number? Where we at right now?
I can get you that number. I don't have it written down, so I'll send that in my email when I send out the ARPA funds as well.
Well, can you have any next report for our next meeting?
Yes,
Appreciate it, thanks.
I'll have it next week.
all right. Commissioner Jones, are you gonna make a motion to accept this report?
Motion to accept the report.
Second.
So motion on the floor, second by Commissioner McCaskill. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir. Next up, long conversation on repaving streets within the city, repaving 18th Street from Washington Street to Napoleon Street. And the estimate is $37,000 for So, Mr. Griffith,
Thank you, Mayor. Previously, there was some discussion about some of the roads in the city that are showing some age and some fatigue. Specifically, the intersection of Washington and North 18th came up. Staff reached out to a contractor we had previously used to get a quote to mill and resurface a 2-block run in that area. That quote came back at approximately $38,000. Also included in your packet, we ran a report from our pavement management software and listed all the road segments that have a fatigue rating of medium to high, just for your reference. We did take a look at the Better Place Reserves, which is the fund that is typically used for resurfacing and capital projects. You're sitting at, just put that back here, $926,000. But please be reminded that we do have multiple large capital projects that are about to go to bid, specifically St. John's Avenue, Mosley to the railroad, St. John's Avenue from the railroad to 4th Street. And we are consistently seeing overruns in these projects based upon inflation. So this is here for your discussion and direction to staff. Mr. Holmes, do you have anything to add?
Just a question, the area that you've identified, is that going to be an area that would be reconstructed under the RAISE grant?
Yes, this area is scheduled to be repaved with the RAISE funds in approximately 2 to 5 years.
it's bad.
Sir?
It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's bad now. And all the way down to Wapala, which is something that I discussed with Mr. Griffith as well. You can actually see the,
Can you go down, zoom in, please, in the area that you speak
you
of?
can, if you're on Google Maps, you can see you can see the spot on Wapala. 18th.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against, I'm just saying that this you'll be reconstructing this road along with installing water lines under the RAISE grant, which somewhere in the 2 to 5 year time frame. So I understand that there may not be time, you may not be able to wait that long. I get it. I'm just saying, I want everybody to understand that this is part of the project for the RAISE grant.
Yes, that's the area. I'm
Go down to
from.
18th and, okay, we're at the 18th and Ocean Street, right there, that intersection. And we have done numerous of patches in this area.
That's bad.
Clear, on the other side. It has to be at least 100 patches in that area. Matter of fact, there's a sinkhole in that road. It has to be taken care of. It's not optional, I think. And the reason why I mentioned about reserves, we go into reserves to do other projects.
I think you
We
preach to the
can't-
choir. Everybody's on page, everybody's on board with you.
Right. So I just want to make that case. And you're right. Nobody said not to do it.
So everybody's on board. Let's just get it done.
So 37,000, hold on, it's another street as well that's not on here, but we did talk about it, Commissioner. I just wanted to, and it is on 19th in Eagle Street where Mr. Evans' church is. And it is a bad area right there. And again, pardon me? Yes, so, and we don't have the estimate on it, but I would like to request it from the commission that we do get an estimate on those 2 areas as well and try to take care of them while we're out there doing it.
So the reason he gave you the estimate on these 2 blocks is so you would have an idea what the cost would be for any additional blocks.
Yeah.
So that was why that estimate was given at 37,000 for 2 blocks. So you kind of get an idea that you'd be around 18.5 per block to go in and pave those streets.
So if it was asking me for direction
I'll let you finish.
as one person, I mean, that's the area there. Not to be disrespectful.
No,
Mayor,
that's what you're
but those areas right
It's
there.
almost 8:30 in Alabama now, but
Well, that's okay. I mean, I sat here and I weathered the storm, and I just wanted to, because of the fact that we have had people come here and talk about these streets. And those areas do need attention. And Mr. Griffith agreed as well as Mr. Holmes. They both been out there. And I guess it's just a matter of where we're gonna put the money in. So I'm not saying that nobody didn't agree. I think we all agreed, but it's important that sometimes people actually see those areas that need attention as well. And so I would like to also add that area, is what I'm saying, into this resurfacing project.
Mayor, from the Better Place Plan, can we also pull from the ARPA funds for that area?
Not
Not
for paving.
okay.
So
Infrastructure.
let's,
All right, we'll go with it.
here's just food for thought. The race grant's gonna come faster than you think it's gonna come. I mean, it seems like it's way off. You're gonna be repeating a lot of stuff. The suggestion is, my suggestion is, when we look at these streets, the streets that can be patch paved at this time, if we know we're gonna be doing total street reconstruction, let's get rid of the stuff that's gonna put us in a position where we're gonna end up with these claims for tires and wheels and all this other stuff. And, you know, that's patch pave or whatever we're gonna do, we know we're coming back, putting in full infrastructure, and we're gonna be paving and doing a total streets project. But we can go around this city and name 1,000,000 streets that need to be paved. At the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of streets that got bricks up underneath of them that are starting to fail. And it's all around. I think when you look at intersections like this one, you look at what's going on, those 2 blocks are bad almost throughout the entire block. The intersection of Wapala and 18th is horrific. And it dips probably 12 inches down in a big spot. And so, you know, when it shows up on Google Maps, you know it's bad. And so I think that what we can do is let's hit what we can while we got the crew mobilized in the general vicinity. And then let's look at the other stuff. And like at Wapala, I think the biggest thing is the intersection. Right. So it may be a situation where we can patch pave the intersection and get rid of that sinkhole that's there, no differently than what you got at the intersection of 19th and 19th and Eagle.
Yeah, most of my intersections.
But part of that's because of drainage, right?
Yeah. So if we
That
could.
failing drainage that's typically leading to that, or what? Is it typically the failing drainage that was leading to those areas?
Typically what happens is you get a potable mainline break. The
And it
ground
washes
becomes
out.
saturated with water. When they do the repair, you can't get density or compaction, and it dries out over time, and then the depression, you know, increases.
And that's why we keep getting that right there at 18th and Napoleon, right there.
Yes, and be advised, if we went in and we patched this, there's still a chance
There's a
the water
chance it can
line
happen
break can
again.
break again until we come back through with the raise fund.
Right, okay. With the
And that's where
infrastructure.
my thing is, let's get the problem fixed, but let's not throw a whole bunch of money putting a bandage on something that we know we gotta come back and rip up, because then we look crazy again. So, we're entertaining a motion at this time.
Motion to approve.
What are we approving?
What we're voting on, there was item 11, right?
Could we,
With the direction and discussion that we're talking about spending the funding, 37,000
So
for.
you just want to do 2 blocks?
Right?
no, to include, also to include the intersection of, the mayor said Wapello and 18th, and I requested 19th and Eagle, just the intersection, like you said, those are the worst areas right there, what's causing the risk and safety.
37 was for 2 blocks.
Right.
So the intersection shouldn't be as much.
17.5, 18.5.
It could be.
Mayor, I have something to add, sir. Thank you, Ms. Goodall. I've got a document in front of me where we have previously highlighted where the potable lines have been replaced. If you're talking about adding locations where you may not be, coming back and redoing some of that work, or you may not be tearing it back up for a mainline break, 19th Street has already been replaced. So we could look at doing a patch at that intersection. North 18th, the sections that we're talking about has not. So if you're talking about it doing a 2-block run, even though there's only a couple spots, not the whole run, you're increasing the odds that you may have to cut into, new pavement, and it would be wasted funds.
Can you?
And the other question was, Wapala?
Waffle Line 18?
Yeah. Give me one for
Wapala was replaced, but it's also one of those areas where they did not remove the old lines, so there's still a chance that it could break.
Yeah.
There's a chance that
So the question is, are you able to get us an updated estimate for patch pavement on that 18th Street?
So if the commission was able to give us the specific locations that they wanted to replace, we'd still have to go back out for an ITB, which we have it prepackaged, so we can get it on the street fairly quickly. So we'd be back before you for award of that ITB and for a budget amendment, probably in about 30 days.
Give or take.
I think since it's consensus that we do realize that those roads need attention. The areas that we've already identified to be taken care of, let's give it okay for those and consideration or have him get estimates for the other ones that we have identified. But I don't want to hold up or impede any progress.
That's what he's doing.
Progress.
He's getting an invitation to bid for those areas that you just named.
Okay.
Based on the motion. So. Question?
Also, I want to mention, if I can, in this packet, it's 83 streets that have been identified.
He
to
missed
have-
two.
Pardon me?
He missed two.
He missed two of them on this in this packet, as Sonny pulled them up. And none of them that we're talking about or mentioned are on this list. And that's 30 out of the 83. So when it was going to be scheduled to be done, I don't know, but it's not on neither one of the streets that we have named are on this list. So when we start saying that it's somewhere to be done within the next 2 to 5 years, we don't have a definitive date and we don't know, but we do know that those roads are in bad conditions. We got to talk about our EMS and our law enforcement that go down there and have to pick up people in those kind of conditions as well. So we're talking about a safety issue as well, not with just the citizen, but talk about emergency vehicles going down those roads. So I just want to point it out.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, Your Honorable Mayor.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor? Commissioner Board, I think you were starting a motion.
Yes, I want to go ahead and make a motion, but are we amending that motion or we're going to with what we currently have?
You didn't get a chance to finish saying it. It was kind of,
Okay.
you were
well,
stopped
well,
midstream.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the item 11 as written and the amended roads. We had, I think, 19th and Eagle, I think Wapala and 18. Was there any other ones?
That's it.
Okay, and those are the areas that we would like to.
You also mentioned 18th and Ocean.
Yeah.
And I'd like to mention there's one mid-block on North 18th, just south of Ocean. That's why we grabbed the 2-block run. So there's
Right. Well, he covered your 2-block area.
Okay.
making sure.
In the
Sorry.
original. He covered your 2-block area, now the 2 intersections.
I'll be quiet now.
All right. That included 18th and Ocean as well.
So he covered your, so the motion is to approve 18th from Washington to Napoleon, plus 18th in Wapala and 19th in Eagle.
Right.
There's a motion on the floor, second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And item 12, which is the purchasing policy, it's been pulled from the agenda.
Oh, cool.
We're pulling item 12. Can I just get a motion to table till the 28th?
Motion to table.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, before we move forward, Can we also make sure that, because it was my understanding that the vehicle policy was supposed to be brought to us tonight as well, can we make sure that we have that policy on the next meeting as
Yes.
well?
Thanks, Commissioner Campbell, because I had it on my list.
For the 28th?
Yeah, it was pulled a meeting ago, or 2 meetings ago, and we wanted to have that. Commissioner Jones asked.
Yeah. I think. Okay. Is that gonna be ready to come back by then?
Did you get your report?
Is that gonna be ready to come back?
Yeah, discussion have been had.
All right. Item number 13, public hearing, TB case 22-07, annex rezoning. 0.44 acres from Putnam County Ag to city residential 1A R1A zoning, 2529 Hudson Avenue.
Thank you, Mayor Hill. Ordinance number 2022-02, an ordinance of the city of Polacca, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the city of Polacca, Florida, certain adjacent territory identified as 2529 Hudson Avenue, Polacca, Florida, 32177, part of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of official records, book 334, page 53, contiguous to the boundaries of the city of Polacca, Florida, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date, sir.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor at a second. Now before public hearings, or anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Is there any further discussion on annexation ordinance? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to rezoning ordinance 22-04, second reading.
Thank you
for
again.
adoption.
Ordinance number 2022-04, an ordinance of the city of Polacca, Florida, providing that the official zoning map of the city of Polacca, Florida be amended for Putnam County agricultural to the city of Polacca residential R1A for the following property: 2529 Hudson Avenue, Polacca, Florida, 32177, part of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter official records, book 334, page 53, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Going
So
once,
moved.
going twice. There's a motion on the floor in a second. Now for public hearing. Is there anyone here for public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, city manager administrative reports.
Mayor, the only thing I would mention is at this point that I referenced earlier to the fact that we had interviews for filling of the fire marshal assistant chief position. Mr. Chad Branford was selected in that process. He's here today. And actually, I think he's already assumed the position of fire marshal assistant chief of the fire department. I also want to mention one further thing. The airport was mentioned earlier, and actually the airport is doing really well at this point. In no small part due to Mr. Yul McNair, who's the new airport manager. Mr. McNair's mother died this last week. And he has taken leave to attend to her and services in Mississippi. So he's away, and I've been maintaining contact with him. Even though she was in her 80s, still, as anyone who's lost their mother knows, it's not something that it only happens once in your life, as to your birth mother. So have your prayers and thoughts with him if you would.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Holmes?
No, sir.
So, Council.
Nothing, sir.
Sir Griffith, anything else? Don't seem so excited.
It's a mix of good news and bad news.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make the commissioners aware, and some of you may have already noticed, that Public Works, Streets and Sanitation specifically are coordinating what we like to call kind of a clean sweep. They're working around the city in zones to do some right-of-way work and bulk waste pickup. Usually it's done, once a year in coordination and preparation for festival season. But I think they are completing the north side zones right now. And be advised that we are still without our sweeper. It's in the shop undergoing repairs. So we will be contracting for those services over the next coming months.
It's a pretty new sweeper, isn't it? Oh, it's pretty new. We just,
About 6 years old, sir.
oh, I thought, well, I know we bought it when I've been on.
The vac
It was
truck.
bought when you were pretty new.
I think
In my opinion, it's still very new.
It's
Yeah,
still new, yeah.
The pony motor is supposedly still under warranty, so we're still working with the supplier on that, and hopefully we'll be able to make a claim and not be out of pocket.
I just have a question with regards to that, and it's probably,
Just 1 second. Commissioner Jones?
I'm sorry. You know,
Was there an issue with garbage collection today? I received a text today about.
I didn't get any reports from Mr. Chandler, sir. It is a short week, so a lot of people don't get the notification, or they forget that they got to get it out a day in advance, because Thursday, Friday gets moved up to Wednesday, Thursday. Usually when that happens, we try and accommodate people as best we can if they call into the office while we're still there.
And do extra pickup. So Thursday or Wednesday. Yeah. But if you call, they'll usually come out. Commissioner Campbell?
So going back to the sweeper, are our vehicles being maintenance the way that they're supposed to prevent some of these things that's happening? I know even with the garbage truck and things of that nature, are we really on a maintenance schedule to kind of combat some of these breakdowns? Or
So Commissioner, I've just gotten back into Public Works recently. I'm not prepared to give you a full report on that. I can tell you that I am specifically looking at the sweeper and the garbage trucks because of the most recent incidents, but I'm not ready to report on that tonight, sir.
well, I would, once you have the ability to do that assessment, I would definitely want you to bring that back to us, or even if it's been off, getting us back to some kind of routine maintenance to avoid these big blowouts. It seems like when it goes down, it really goes down. So
You're looking at daily logs and things of that nature, just to see the checks that come.
Our drivers are conducting the pre-check inspections. I can't tell you if we're doing audits on those to make sure that they're truly conducting the pre-trip inspection. Again, we do have to trust, our employees, and some of them start work about 6 or 7 hours before we do. But we are looking at the possibility of employing some existing software that we're paying for with the GPS tracking. There is additional ways of actually documenting the maintenance on the vehicles using that Verizon Fleetmatic software. It's not currently being used, but it's something that hopefully we we'll be able to put in place soon.
Do we have we don't have nothing in place like business continuity where if a critical truck or whatever goes down, that we have like a lease agreement or rental agreement, maybe or insurance that covers, say we can get another sweeper to.
We have known vendors in the area that supply that service on a contractual basis, and when we need them to come in, we contact them for quotes, sir. That's all I have.
Where are the boats?
What's the address? Where'd Marcia go? St. John Shipbuilders.
So the most recent, the boat that we've most recently received did not pass its stability test in terms of its capacity to carry the specified number of passengers. It is going to require additional ballast. So they're going to be making the calculations to determine the amount of additional ballast required and adding that ballast to the boat in order for the boat to be able to hopefully pass the stability test that makes it serviceable.
I want to be on that boat.
I got a question. Will it sit in the water by itself without tipping over?
It's doing that now.
I hope not.
It's actually floated down the river so far. So
it's the boat passed a stability test with a number of people on it less than its desired maximum. So it did not pass with the required or the desired maximum. And that's been something that, we've been concerned about from day one, because that boat, Mayor will tell you, I asked that question when we went to look at the boat before it was even, because they took out 2 large electric motors, which are heavy, and a boatload of batteries and a generator, and replaced it with 2 small diesel engines.
Oh, no.
So there's a whole lot of weight that went out. And the question that I asked early on was, have you guys done weight and balance on this? So you know what the effect of changing all of that is going to be. And we were told that they had.
So the boat is gonna, the corrections or the fix that you said needs to be done, will it go back to the people who originally or someone else?
They're doing it here.
Yeah. they're doing it locally.
It's at St. John's Shipyard.
Okay.
Well, St. John's isn't doing it, but supposedly it's still being done by Mr. Cunningham
Okay.
or his crew.
It's just done locally.
Sir,
It's just being done locally. And
Yeah,
it's being done
locally,
in
yeah.
Putnam County as opposed to in Leesburg.
Yep.
So, but the question came up over a year ago from Mr. Holmes while we were there doing the site inspections. So I hated to bring that up, but I thought it was time to go ahead and get an
Sure.
update. Contract negotiations as it relates to,
have a contract and it's waiting signature. And they'll be, hopefully, when they have a boat they can operate, they'll start.
all right, Ms. Walsh?
Good evening. I'd like to update you on some of the activities that we've been working on. Since January 1, we've worked on 55 different cases that would have come in. 13 of those are historic preservation, 21 of them are building permits, 14 of them are planning board related cases, and there were 5 zoning verification letters. New housing in the area since January 1 is about 10 units that have come in. Last year in 2021, there were 15 single-family residences and 9 mobile homes that came in. So we are
Mobile homes in Cedar Platte.
mobile homes, yes. Yes.
I thought we had an ordinance.
R4 permits mobile homes. Most of those went into Viking Estates, Viking Manor,
Viking
Viking
Manor.
Manor. Couple of the big projects that we've got going on, the cottages should be breaking ground pretty soon.
It's 195 units.
195.
Yes.
4.
194.
Excuse me,
Sorry,
194.
194.
We have to add the other one. Mr. Holmes, we have to add the other one now.
6131 Krill, which is 150 rental apartments. They are still in their research and design stages. Plants of Ruskin is moving along. They've got hiring up on their website, hiring positions open on their website. Also, several renovations throughout the city on other commercial properties, including Wendy's, Taco Bell, and there's a new Scooters. Scooters drive-in, Scooters Coffee.
Coffee?
Coffee.
Scooters.
Right. And then lastly, with some help of Jonathan's team, we submitted 3 grant applications for some planning projects on Monday.
Can we get the report, like that report that you just read off? Can we get like a report on stuff like that? That's really good news.
We also met with the developer of Villa Farms, who's, I guess by now closed on an additional 80 acres. And he's going to be expanding his Villa Farms project in the very near future.
Which direction? West?
Towards St. John's.
Towards north and east to towards St. John's Avenue from 20.
Okay.
One moment, I just want some clarification from Commissioner Borum. When you say you want an additional report, would you like me to put it into an email to you? Is that what you're
No, I
asking
mean, that's a good report, what you just put together with all the stats. and
Just
stuff. I
wanted
think
to
that's
share
really-
that share that with you in a written form.
Yeah, that'll be great if we get a report like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yes, sir. Mr. Jones?
We have a new
Your
donut
mi-
shop right there.
Your mic's not on.
Right down 17, new donut shop. I don't know the name. Across from McDonald's.
Ed's.
Donuts.
Okay, yeah. So
We know.
maybe it's a question for
It's a question for 8 o'clock.
traffic control, whatever. But you have cars lining up,
It's
going
there.
into the place.
Yes, sir.
So it must have great donuts. But
They
is
do.
that an issue? Is that a issue that we would deal with the traffic on the road? Has that been addressed when they opened up? Where are we with that?
They do have a short stacking lane on their property, and I have been in touch with the owner. Last month, we spoke at length, and we agreed that he would be going to an engineer to look at some solutions, including making a longer stack lane throughout his property, making the driveway longer. And possibly, I told him, I said, you gotta move people through there faster, man.
I don't
But,
know, yeah, it's a laughing matter that something happened, or
Yes,
somebody
exactly.
rear end on those cars. So I
Exactly.
just want to know, because I had, again, got calls, I don't know if the chief had got calls, fire chief, that it's something that we.
Right, they're stacking out onto the, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why
They've been, yeah, they've addressed it. They've started addressing it here. So I think everybody realizes that it's a potential.
Yeah.
The donuts are good.
They're very delicious.
Anything else, Ms. Walsh?
No, sir.
Mr. Cutright? No, you do. Go Titans. Go ahead, Mr. Cutright.
Always tighten up. Just a few little things I want to put out. I sent an email out earlier about what we had going on this weekend. We have the class of 76 doing a food drive, farm share food drive at Jenkins tomorrow morning from 8:30 until the food run out. So please come out and try to help. It's not a city event, but if you want to come out and support, you can. We also have a wonderful debut of our Easter Bunny this Saturday. It's called Hippity Hoppity River Boppity. Don't quote me on that. That's not my.
Who came up with that name?
But it starts from 11 to 3. We have different age groups, so please come out and support. It's just a small thing that we're trying to start and continue to do it on an annual basis, just to get the city something to do. It's from 11 a.m. to 3. Age groups start at 0 to 3, first age slot. Then you go to 4 to 8, and then you finish up with the 9 and 12. And you can take pictures with the Easter Bunny.
Easter Bunny.
With the Easter Bunny.
It's sunny.
That is gonna be the Easter bunny. He's gonna appear.
We do have a picture of the bunny, but
She can stand up. Can she stand up?
I don't know if we can really share that on a live.
Can we?
Don't spike too many times on that.
I don't even want to see.
The next thing I want to add to it is the 29th of April is our last lunch on the riverfront. Starting in May, we're gonna move it to the evening time.
Yes.
With a little music and things. So the third Friday in May will be the standard going forth in May for 4 to 8 p.m. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm not gonna keep it no longer than we have to tonight. Other than that, everything is going smoothly in my departments. Any questions?
No questions. Thank you, sir.
And I do have a report. I sent it to the city manager. Once he approves it, I send it to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fire Marshal, you got anything? Chief, come on.
Staff did a great job. It's in service. That restaurant pump, capital replacement. We have received some of the models from the SCBA. The total packages should be there by August or so. We are at full staffing, first time in about 2.5 years. We just finished a rookie school today of 6 people. And well, tomorrow they have a live burn. We'll finish that off by about noon. And as Mr. Combs talked about, we have a new fire marshal. Chief Program.
The fire school at the fire academy at the high school?
Yes, sir. For now. We're trying to get that. We ran into some issues with that. Students coming out.
Wow. Excellent. Great.
And our first female firefighter in recent times who graduated under our minority scholarship program is on board and doing well.
Thank you. Congratulations. We've got an old fire marshal, very old fire marshal in here today. Mark Leonard, go ahead and stand up so we can recognize you.
All right. He's not old, he's mature. He's mature.
Chief. Watch that chair.
Apologize for not having it out, but I'm going to be able to provide you with one of the reports you can see. Yes, sir. As stated in our last meeting, myself and city manager got together. I presented him with the community service engagement plan that we came up with and want to quickly actually get moving on. As you can see, we're going to be doing quarterly zone meetings, allowing for increased communication between law enforcement and community by developing an outlet for the community and the department to voice their concerns and collectively develop solutions. One zone a month, touching each zone at least 4 times a year in different areas so we can cover the city in a year. Our first zone meeting will be held on April 26th, covering the south side from 9th Street to Mosley and St. John's to Twig. We're going to announce our location. We're trying to get the building secured, but we want to do a building in each area if possible. The next is our community events. You're all familiar with most of the community events we have, but we just added just something new, and I wanted to make sure I listed it. As we've done in previous times, our neighborhood festivals. We're going to be doing our neighborhood festivals, which provide positive context and interactions within the community. And then along with that, the new thing we're adding is Brain Freeze Friday. We're going to go ahead and provide ices, bring things out so we can just bring something into the community to provide, again, like we said, positive interactions and communication. And that's going to be on June 10th. Reestablishment of the Pastors and Police Alliance Program is a coalition of pastors who work in partnership with the police department to serve the citizens of Polacca, Florida. Our members attend monthly meetings and are called to help citizens in crisis. This program is a unique and ministerial opportunity which will assign community pastors to work in neighborhoods throughout the city to develop ongoing relationships of trust within the community. First meeting has been scheduled for Monday, April 18th. Our letters are already gone out and our invites have been sent in hand delivered. Next is our Community Police Council. This is something that I know not only has come up before, several of you have asked about it, we've spoken about it. I've actually spoken with the mayor about it, but the Community Police Council, the Polacca Police Department will comprise, CPC will be comprised of representatives of businesses, churches, community agencies, youth groups, law enforcement, and the CPC is responsible for developing, overseeing, and assisting with implementing executive strategies to reduce crime and disorder, change perceptions, and facilitate positive engagement and increase trust between the Polacca Police Department as well as neighborhoods they serve by implementing community police relations groups to provide venues for the community to have the ability to speak, be heard, and have their perspective considered, all while helping to bridge the gap between the police department and the community members. Members will be identified for the first meeting, which we plan to hold the first week of May.
Are you limiting membership on that?
Excuse me, sir?
You limiting the number of members, or you operating as a
Yes.
board?
Yeah, we're looking at, we're reaching out to individuals to invite, and it's just gonna be a key amount. We don't wanna spread it too large, but we do wanna have an effective group that touches all areas.
So you're doing like the old advisory board we have?
That's correct.
If we have a recommendation, can we pass that on to you?
Please do.
for
Yes, sir.
consideration?
Yes, sir. The next one is Talking Tuesdays. Community walks. We're going to be conducting walks within the community,
contacting residents and creating dialogue. Once a month, members of the police department will take to the streets within the specific neighborhood and go door to door to meet residents. Also in tow are representatives from the governmental entities such as the Public Works, Social Services, Public Utilities, and members of the local clergy, all in attendance to get an accurate depiction of what's going on and the way things look on the ground to join the PPD's problem-solving matrix. This allows us to address problems as we see them and provide the departments to give the community while talking to the citizens. First date for Talking Tuesday has been set for April 19th at 6 p.m. The address for Talking Tuesday is, the neighborhood for Talking Tuesday is going to be North 11th Street to North 19th Street from Madison to Police Street. And we plan on getting out and doing those things. Again, these are all things that over the period of time we've heard, we've seen, and we know that we need to implement and get stuff staged. The last is the community survey. We are building a community survey and implementing an online survey as well for the community members to fill out. Officers contacted the public, officers going to be contacting the public during their duties. We'll provide cards and case numbers and website addresses so we can get the surveys out and get citizens' comments back on it. These are, again, things that for a number of different reasons that were discontinued, but we are bringing back, and we are excited to actually move forward and get community service back into the community.
I have a question, if I may, Mayor. I have a question with regards to our substations. How many substations do we have within the city, the neighborhood substations?
We had a temporary substation down at the riverfront. We was experiencing quite a bit of problems. The building down at the riverfront. Ship store was unoccupied at the time, so we used it as a substation. And we go in and out of it from time to time just to make sure we can show and have an appearance. The main substation, which was used as a neighborhood house, as of recent has been the one on the north side, and we've been utilizing it now fully as a substation on a day-to-day basis.
I didn't hear you mention that, but I wanted to make sure that the citizens know. I've passed by several times and saw police officers, staff there, and I think that presence have made some difference on that side. So thank you so much for that.
Yes, I actually was there Friday speaking to the lady at the Pink Store, and she was saying how much the officers are in the community and just there and about just overseeing the community, making sure things are all proper. So we certainly appreciate all of the efforts you guys are doing. Yes, Ms. Ellis.
Last thing, the old gang task force, are you seeing a need for that or anything proactive from a team engagement standpoint to deal with?
We are putting together some investigative tools to address the gang stuff that we're seeing and the issues or the groups, gangs that we're coming across and identifying. We along with Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Sheriff's Office have gotten together and put together investigative efforts to address those issues.
I think it may be an opportunity. If you recall a few years back, we actually had, remember we had the speakers come in, different speakers that came in and went and did assembly at the schools. Because we're seeing the number of explosions going up, all those different things going up at the same time. It may be an opportunity to bring in some speakers that can start to hit home with some folks.
I think that's something we can broach with the school board. I know we do include that in our Monday afternoon meetings. That's some of the topics we talk about because we're all crossing those same bridges with those individuals within the school as well. So I think that's something we can bring up and work towards.
You got some local folks too, who've got some experience in dealing with it, who are willing to come forward. So if you want those names, I'll give them to you.
Yes, sir.
And so you mentioned that, but you are still having the monthly meeting with Sheriff's Office, school administrators, and PPD staff?
Yes, sir.
So I also saw you put something in the paper about the car break-ins.
Yes, sir. We've along with the Sheriff's Office had a number of different break-ins. We put some information out to make sure that the citizens are aware of it, as well as it helps to identify those individuals that's out there committing those crimes.
All right. Any other questions from the commission?
Just a commendation. So I
Yes.
appreciate it.
We appreciate the report, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
I like the detail.
Thank you.
Ms. Shank. Captain Williams, you awake? Ms. Shank.
I just want to mention that at the next commission meeting, we will be having our Leadership Academy graduation. So very excited for that. And that's all I have.
It was a wonderful exercise just to walk in on Toby Williams giving his presentation at the end. So, Ms. Krantz.
Just very excited for everything we've got going on with the hippity hoppity river boppity. I know everybody's waiting for me to say that. And a special thanks for the recent birthday recognitions, guys.
Y'all just don't know what it's like to have sunny and sunshine together.
Oh, God.
On a daily basis.
You can't get nothing but sunshine.
All right.
It's a bright day.
I think of Chaplain Mulberry. So we. Mr. Dennis, wow.
Nothing from the gas authority tonight, sir. Everything's going great there.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Jones.
Yes, just a quick update on the orientations and all that, that we've been doing, interviews. At current, the water treatment plant, community affairs, and fire department are fully staffed. With our interviews that we did this week, once all of the orientations are complete, City Hall, 2 positions, the wastewater treatment plant, 3 positions, and the police department, 1 position shall be staffed, fully staffed, which will only leave us the public works department to focus on next week to get those positions interviewed and staffed. Also, I'd like to say this is our 3rd month of our employee appreciation. The past 2 recipients, we've had very positive feedback from what they've received and recognizing them as Employee of the Month. And so just moving forward, I'll be able to focus a little bit more on public works and getting that position staffed. So at that time, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes, anything else?
No, sir, I'm good.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes, just real briefly, want to talk about one thing that I brought to Mr. Holmes. I know in the past couple of months, weeks, we've had a lot of people coming in talking about the trash and all of those things. So I proposed to Mr. Holmes, and he's been working with Keep Putnam Beautiful. I know we've done in the past Polacca Pride, but trying to possibly bring in we often know about the Adopt a Highway, but the possibilities of adopting one of the city streets that will be an opportunity for our civic organizations, churches, to kind of take pride in their area. So that's something that Attorney Holmes is working with. City Manager Holmes is working with Keep Putnam Beautiful just to see how we can implement that in the city. Oftentimes when we hear the complaints, they expect us to make a difference, but together we all could make a difference. So I think that will be an awesome way for us to engage our community in making sure that we together keep our city clean. Again, thank you to the commission for the opportunity to move forth with the youth council, with Sunny, the team that we have assembled, Ms. Moats. I believe we're going to do great things within the city and within our kids. And I think that's pretty much it. I would like to have a meeting with regards to some of the concerns that I have with the fire department that have been coming directly to me. So if we can set up a time next week, probably to talk about it and have in that meeting, Chief Taylor. And I think it probably would address some of the concerns that we have heard tonight. But again, these are just some personal concerns, some personal things that I've come to me directly.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Jones?
I have no further. Honorable Mayor.
I was gonna have you tell Commissioner Campbell about what the men on Mega South Five do on a monthly basis as it relates to cleaning up streets.
Well, I don't know about that, but I would
We'll-
love to hear more about
We'll
it.
invite you in one Saturday.
I'd love to join and bring others too.
So. Commissioner Borum.
Yes, I just want to commend Commissioner Campbell for helping to bring the youth council forward to the commission and continuing that ball rolling. And along with Commissioner McCaskill, we want to thank you guys for that because again, the youth are our future. So we want to definitely make sure that they're plugged in. I want to also congratulate our Marshal Branford for his new position and role. Looking forward to working with you in that role. So and thank the staff for all the excellent work you guys been doing. So just don't want to leave anybody out. That's all I have.
I thought you were gonna say Fire Marshal Bill. Commissioner McCaskill.
Just, I want to thank staff for all of their hard work and efforts that they put forward to supporting Commissioner Campbell. And thank you, Commissioner Campbell, for taking this task on. I have already spoken with, had a conversation with City Manager Holmes regarding the fire issues. However, I will be looking forward to hearing your concerns and us moving forward to try to come to some resolution to these issues that have been brought before us. That's all.
In closing, first, thank you to our citizens for their patience and some of the things that we've been dealing with over the last few months. We got an opportunity to sit down in a workshop with the Community Action Network, which is a new organization comprised of various people from throughout the community, from all different segments. And looking at this report that we have here, I think it's a great opportunity to be able to tie some of that stuff in with some of the initiatives that were presented to us tonight as well. But I think the other part is when we look at our community as a whole, thank you to the County Commission for a good workshop and for new beginnings as it relates to putting some things in place. Even with Commissioner Rawls, he has on multiple occasions brought forth some businesses that were interested in the city of Polacca. And although he's a Seminole, we appreciate it. And so we definitely appreciate those efforts in moving the community forward. And also to this commission. I mean, I think all too many times we get more attacked than we do think, but I think at the end of the day, we continue to work and move forward. So I think there's a comprehensive group of employees and staff and commission that have worked together and been committed and spent long hours just hoping to make this community better. We're continually thriving. We've got investors who are realizing that Polacca is truly the last snapshot of old Florida. And we sit at the table with them constantly. And sometimes we're reminded of where we are and what the greatness of this community is by people who see things that we become blind to over time. And so with the adversities that exist, they create opportunities. With the hope that's in our future, it creates even greater chances for greatness. And so we'll continue to push forward. We're getting ready for Blue Crab. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of community effort. And this is where the rubber meets the road and the good people of Polacca will come together to make this festival the showcase that it's always been. And it will continue to be that in the future. So we encourage our citizens who want to volunteer to come out. Those who want to show up and have a good time, come out as well. But we want Blue Crab to be something big. And I think tonight was a big step in the right direction for that. The promoter will be off and running tomorrow after this contract is signed. And we're excited. And council pushed out that contract pretty quick. But all hands on deck, we're going to be looking for help because this is going to be a tough one to pull off in a 6-week period. And so I think it's going to be able to be pulled off. And I think it's going to be one that's going to be good for this community as a whole, because as we continue on with the pandemic, we need to be mindful that it's not over. that people are continually being affected and dying on a regular basis, and that we just got to continually work with our new norm.